Chapter 1700. Zhao Xiang didn't know why he was captured. He was trapped in a secret compartment of the manor with a cloth stuffed in his mouth. He was tied up like a wild boar waiting to be slaughtered. Even if he tried to use his tongue, he couldn't push the cloth out. The next person Jiang Chun and Song Yuanjia saw was Wei Daxuan. At this moment, Wei Daxuan seemed to have lost his soul. He didn't know whether his son and daughter were alive or dead. His family business was about to be ruined. Even his wife had been defiled countless times. He couldn't even protect his own life. He didn't know what chance he had to live. He even wanted Song Yuanjia to give him a quick death so that he could escape from this torture. "I won't kill you." Hearing Wei Daxuan's words, Song Yuanjia smiled. "Why?" Wei Daxuan raised his head. These words shocked him. He looked at Song Yuanjia and asked, "I sent people to Eternal River City and asked Little Qing to invite immortal King Xianjun. It's all to kill you. I know there's a reason for this, so I won't pursue your fault. But from now on, Jiang Chun is the head shopkeeper of the Heavenly Province Bank. What you need to do is to assist him in everything in the bank. I won't treat you badly. Of course, if you have second thoughts, not only will I kill you, but I will also make your son and daughter disappear from the immortal world." Song Yuanjia drank tea and said, "Are Little Qing and Little Qiao still alive?" Hearing this, Wei Daxuan felt his whole body was filled with hope. "Head shopkeeper Song, where are they?" "In the manor in Eternal River City. As long as you listen to my orders, I can guarantee that they will be safe and sound. Otherwise, what you will see will be their corpses," Song Yuanjia said, looking into his eyes. "No problem. I can guarantee that I will listen to Jiang Chun in the future. The Heavenly Province Bank is also his business." Wei Daxuan nodded vigorously. For a moment, he actually cried. "I will lend you 3,000 guards. You can take them to solve the problem you want to solve. Come back here before dark and acknowledge Jiang Chun as your young master. From then on, you will follow his and my orders." Song Yuanjia placed a wooden tablet on the table. This was the commander's seal that could mobilize the guards of Eternal River City. "Where is Zhao Xiang?" Wei Daxuan sat still. "Lock him up. I can help you deal with him. What you need to deal with are other things. Let the Heavenly Province Bank regain its calm so that Jiang Chun can smoothly take over," said Song Yuanjia. "Thank you, head shopkeeper Song." Without hesitation, Zhao Xiang took the wooden medallion and left. "Young master, from tonight onwards, the Heavenly Province Bank will be yours. I will also help you deal with it, but all the profits will be yours." Song Yuanjia recovered his previous humility and whispered to Jiang Chun, "Well done." Jiang Chun nodded in satisfaction. "For young master, we can do anything." Song Yuanjia hurriedly expressed his attitude. A few hours later, Zhao Xiang returned with the wooden tablet. He respectfully knelt before Jiang Chun and reported the situation of the Heavenly Province Bank. Jiang Chun did not have any interest in these things. Anyway, it was fine as long as the immortal jades he earned were in his hands. After resting for a night, Jiang Chun was about to leave, but he was stopped by Song Yuanjia. The reason was that Zhao Xiang wanted to go to Eternal River City to see his son and daughter. He heard from Song Yuanjia that he was still a little worried. As the head shopkeeper of the Heavenly Province Bank, Jiang Chun naturally had to follow along. Jiang Chun did not refuse. These days, when he had nothing to do, he was still thinking about the Black Sect. Jiang Chun suddenly remembered the first time he went to the Eternal River Bank. He met the old man who wanted to charge him tens of millions of immortal jades just by looking at a few thin pages about the Black Sect. Now that he was the young master of the Thousand Harmonies sect, even the entire Eternal River Bank was his. He should be able to see those things. Although he knew that it might be some useless information, after all, the Eternal River Bank had only found out that the Black Sect had 10 branches in the northern and eastern regions. However, Jiang Chun still wanted to take a look. He would not let go of any information about the Black Sect. After resting for a day in Heavenly Province City, everyone went on their way. Due to Wei Daxuan's lack of strength, the journey that would have taken less than half a day took him until the wee hours of the morning. After nearly 10 days of reconstruction, Eternal River City had recovered a little. However, one could still see the devastation left behind by the battle between experts. "Shopkeeper Song, I'm really sorry. At that time, I was confused and had no choice but to do this. I almost caused a disaster. Looking at the situation in Eternal River City, Wei Dashuan could not help but shake his head and sigh. Let's not talk about the past anymore. As long as you promise that you will not be disloyal in the future and will do your best to help Jiangchen look after the Heavenly Province Bank, I will not fuss about it. Song Yuanjia did not want to say these useless words. Of course, I have already sworn to the heavens that I will take good care of the Heavenly Province Bank in this life. Wei Dashuan raised his hand and said in a deep voice. They arrived at Song Yunjia's manor. Song Yunjia brought Wei Dashuan to see his son and daughter, while Jiang Chun went directly to the living room. Because Song Yunjia had already sent back the news, the people of the Eternal Riverbank had prepared the things in advance. As soon as Jiang Chun entered the door, a clansman presented it to him. You may leave. Jiang Chun sat on a wooden chair and flipped through the contents. It was a little different from what Jiang Chun had thought. Although there were very few things recorded, Jiang Chun saw something useful. The Black Sect might be the descendants of an ancient sect. This sentence was marked at the end. There was also a question mark. The person who recorded it back then seemed to be unsure of the authenticity of this information. However, Jiang Chen's thoughts started to wander. In the boundary of the immortal emperor's tomb, Jiang Chen saw the Black Sky Emperor, which gave him the feeling that he was the sect master of the Black Sect. At that time, he also guessed that this immortal emperor might be related to the sect master of the Black Sect. At that time, it was just a fleeting thought. Now that he saw this sentence, Jiang Chen felt that it was more reliable. Just based on the fact that the sect master of the Black Sect dared to attack him without fear of the promise of 2 realms and the promise of 1,000 years at the China sect auction, he could more or less confirm it. If the sect master of the Black Sect was really the descendant of the Black Sky Emperor, then he might have the strength to not follow these rules. Old man Zhou, why are you as unreliable as Bai Xianling? What you said back then is useless now. Jiang Chen said to himself helplessly. When the sect master of the Black Sect attacked him, Zhou Kunlun should have appeared. However, until now, he had not even seen a shadow. With a sigh, Jiang Chen could only accept this fact. With his current strength, he was afraid that he was not qualified to take the initiative to meet Zhou Kunlun, nor could he find where Bai Xianling was. He could only rely on his own strength to survive. Chapter 1701. Wei Dashuan saw his son and daughter. He thought of a way to send the people from the Ganges bank away and hug them with a pained expression. I'm sorry, father. I've disappointed you. Wei Qing cried bitterly. During this period of time, he had been reflecting on why he had failed. This failure had directly ruined their Wei clan. Don't be afraid. As long as we're still alive, that's the best outcome. Wei Dashuan comforted him. Father, where's my mother? After hugging for a while and calming down, Wei Qing looked out the door. Don't mention the *TCH in front of me again. Wei Dashuan released the child and pushed him to the ground. Yesterday, when he received the Ganges bank's guards, the first thing he did was to return home and kill his wife. He couldn't tolerate having a cuckold on his head. This was an insult to a man, and it was also a challenge to a man's bottom line. Seeing their father so angry, Wei Qing and Wei Xiaoqiao wanted to know, but they held back. Remember, the Tianfu Bank is now Song Yuanjia's. He gave the bank to a young man called Jiang Chen. In the future, father will work for him. I'm afraid the two of you will have to stay here for a long time. Don't have any conflicts with the people from the Ganges Bank. Learn to lower your head and admit defeat. Understand? Wei Dashuan took a few deep breaths before calming down. He looked at the child sitting in front of him and reminded him. What? Wei Qing stood up from his chair. He couldn't accept it. If Song Yuanjia had taken over the bank, he could understand. But why did he give it to Jiang Chen? Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. As long as you're still alive, show some respect to Song Yuanjia and Jiang Chen. Oh right, call them Shopkeeper Song and Young Master in the future. Understand? Wei Dashuan walked forward and grabbed Wei Qing's collar. He gritted his teeth and instructed. Understood, understood. Wei Qing was frightened by his father's expression and hurriedly nodded in agreement. Live well in Ganges City. I hope I won't hear news of your deaths in the future. Wei Dashuan loosened his grip. He knew that he couldn't stay here for too long. He took another look at his son and daughter before turning around to leave. Wei Qing, who was in the room, seemed to have lost his soul as he sat on the floor in a daze. Big brother, this should be considered a pretty good ending. We wanted to take over the Ganges Bank, but they gave us a way out. Although we won't be as rich as before, we can still survive. Wei Xiaoqiao was more open-minded. She squatted on the ground and wiped the tears from Wei Qing's eyes. You don't understand. You don't understand. Wei Qing pushed her away. If I didn't know Jiang Chun, I would definitely listen to father's orders. However, I've already offended him twice. Do you think he will tolerate me? Wei Qing sighed heavily. I don't think he's a vengeful person. Wei Xiaoqiao fell to the ground and stood up. She patted the dust off her skirt and said, the more this kind of person is, the more terrifying they are. You don't understand this kind of person at all. Wei Qing racked his brains, trying to think of a solution. Suddenly, he raised his head and looked at his sister. Little sister, you can walk freely in Ganges City now. Song Yuanji's people won't restrict you, right? Yes, but I can't go out of the city gates. I can still go to other places. Wei Xiaoqiao nodded. How about this? You help me do something. As long as you can do it, then my life will be saved. Wei Qing got up and moved to Wei Xiaoqiao's side, mumbling in a low voice. At first, Wei Xiaoqiao was very happy, thinking that she could help her brother. However, the more she listened, the more she felt that something was wrong. In the end, her face was even a little pale, and she was biting her lips tightly. Little sister, if it wasn't for the fact that there was no other way, I wouldn't have done this. Only you can save Big Brother's life now. Otherwise, Jiang Chun will definitely take revenge in the future. With our abilities, we won't be able to stop him. Wei Qing knew that this idea was a little too much, but the effect was the best. I'll think about it. Wei Xiaoqiao grabbed the corner of her clothes. This idea had a huge impact on her. There's no time to think about it. If you don't hurry up, once Jiang Chun is done, he will definitely come and kill me. Wei Qing grabbed her arm and held it tightly. Big brother, you're hurting me? Wei Xiaoqiao gently opened her mouth. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Wei Qing quickly let go and apologized. Go. Yes, I'll listen to Big Brother. I'll go find Jiang Chun. Looking at Wei Qing's aggrieved and begging appearance, Wei Xiaoqiao still couldn't be cruel. She also didn't want to see her brother, who grew up with her, fall into a situation where he was killed. After agreeing, Wei Xiaoqiao slowly walked out. Looking at his sister's back, Wei Qing clenched his fists, and his face kept twitching. For Big Brother's life, I'll just have to make you suffer. Seeing Wei Xiaoqiao disappear around the corner, Wei Qing let out a sigh of relief. Immediately, he sat on the ground, exhausted, and large beads of sweat dripped from his forehead. Staying in the guest room, Jiang Chun felt extremely bored. Thus, he pushed open the door and walked out of the manor under the protection of the two guards. Now that Ganges City was his town, he, as the young lord, had to walk around and familiarize himself with the situation in the town. He couldn't possibly not know what was in the town. Jiang Chun walked aimlessly. The two guards behind him didn't complain and just followed behind him. Passing by a tavern, Jiang Chun originally wanted to go in and drink 2 jugs of wine. Before he could enter, he saw a beautiful figure rush out from inside and directly bump into Jiang Chun's arms. Ah! Jiang Chun subconsciously dodged. But he didn't expect that when he stretched out his hand, he would directly press on a soft and plump place. This strange touch made Jiang Chun's whole body tremble. Damn pervert, don't let me see you in the future. The woman's face turned red, but she seemed to have some urgent matters to attend to. She hurriedly struggled out of Jiang Chun's arms, cursed under her breath, and quickly left. A short while after she left, a few men rushed out of the tavern, cursing and swearing. You two, chase after them and see the situation. If possible, save the girl's life. Recalling the encounter just now, Jiang Chun subconsciously licked his lips. Soon after, he realized that his actions were too vulgar and perverted. He coughed and ordered the 2 guards behind him. We are protecting you. The guards were a bit embarrassed. Chapter 1702. With your strength, Can you protect me if I really encounter danger? Jiang Chen smiled. After the encounter, just now, he was in a much better mood. The guard fell into deep thought. They were only immortals, while Jiang Chun was a sky immortal expert. If they were in danger, it would be Jiang Chun who would protect them. Go after her. If anything happens to that girl, I will let Song Yuanjia teach you a lesson. Jiang Chun raised his hand and was about to slap them. Yes, big brother Jiang Chun. The guard shivered in fright and hurriedly chased in the direction the girl had escaped. Looking at the girl who was running away, Jiang Chun stopped smiling so that he wouldn't look so wretched. Then, he walked into the tavern and ordered 2 pots of wine and a side dish. He was almost done eating. The guard also returned. That girl shook off the men who were chasing her and hid in a dilapidated house. We were worried that we would disturb her if we went in, so we didn't follow her. The guard stood in front of Jiang Chun and reported, "Bring me there." Jiang Chun stood up. He followed the guard all the way to a less bustling part of the town and stopped in front of a very dilapidated house. "It's here." The guard pointed at a wooden door that could collapse at any time and said, "Well done." Jiang Chun nodded in satisfaction and then took out 10 immortal jades from his storage ring and handed them to the guard. "Your work today is done. Go to the tavern to eat and drink. Don't worry about me." The guard revealed a smile. 10 immortal jades. It was enough to eat and drink the best wine in any tavern in the town. I really didn't expect him to have this kind of taste. On the way back, the guard with the immortal jades looked back and whispered, "With how much the manager values him, I'm afraid he can choose any woman in the town." Another guard said with some envy, "Although he could eat and drink in the tavern, how could those things compare to the warmth of a woman's embrace?" Jiang Chun didn't know what they were talking about. He stood at the door and hesitated for a while before pushing the door open and going in. However, he didn't expect the door to be so dilapidated. Jiang Chun only used a little more strength, and it fell to the ground with a loud bang, stirring up a cloud of dust. "Cough, cough. I'm so sorry for knocking down your door." Jiang Chun walked in awkwardly. He waved his hands and couldn't help but cough. "Who are you?" In the corner of the room, the beautiful figure stood up and stared at the door like a frightened kitten as she asked in a low voice. "I'm the one you bumped into at the entrance of the tavern," Jiang Chun said honestly. "Stinking gangster. I didn't have time to deal with you at that time, but you came to me instead." A beautiful figure flashed by, holding the short knife in her hand, and directly pressed it against Jiang Chun's neck. Through the dust, Jiang Chun saw her appearance clearly. She wasn't as cold as Xian Yu and Wei Yu, nor was she as hot-tempered as Huafu. She looked a little ordinary, but when her facial features were put together, she looked more and more beautiful. "I'm not a stinking gangster. You bumped into me yourself. I instinctively reached out to block you. Who would have thought?" Jiang Chun explained awkwardly, but when he thought of the situation just now and the feeling of his hands touching her, he couldn't help but laugh. "You're still denying it. I'll kill you now." The woman felt humiliated by Jiang Chun. She held the short knife in her hand and was ready to cut Jiang Chun's throat, but when she used her strength, she suddenly felt a piercing pain. Her body went limp and she fell to the ground. The short knife only lightly scratched Jiang Chun's skin, and there wasn't even a trace of blood. TSK. It seems that the injury is not light." Jiang Chun kicked the short knife to the side and slowly squatted down. "What do you want to do?" The woman's eyes were full of fear, and her hands were tightly clutching her clothes. "Don't misunderstand. I'm here to help you." Jiang Chun's expression gradually became serious. "When you bumped into me, I felt that you had a fatal injury. If you don't treat it in time, I'm afraid you won't live for more than a few days." "You're a doctor?" Hearing Jiang Chun's words, the woman let down some of her guard. "I'm not a doctor, but I still have some experience in treating illnesses." Jiang Chun stood up and waved his hands, and all the dust in the room was scattered. The room that was originally dirty and messy was now clean and new, but it was a little broken. However, although the room was clean, the dust that was blown outside was like a sandstorm circling around. Many people couldn't react in time and ate a mouthful of dirt. "Since I took advantage of you, I naturally have to help you." Jiang Chun directly put his hands under her waist and legs and carried her to the innermost wooden board. "You're a heaven immortal expert." The woman was a little shocked. "Not bad. Your strength is not bad." Sensing that the woman was around the 6th stage of the true immortal realm, Jiang Chen gave her a thumbs up. "What's the use of this? The 6th stage of the true immortal realm is not enough for revenge." The woman clenched her fists and gritted her teeth, and her eyes became fierce. "Revenge? What revenge?" Jiang Chen's gossipy heart burned. "It has nothing to do with you." The woman glanced at Jiang Chen and then looked away. "You don't have to care about me. The poison in my body has already entered my bone marrow. Even the best doctor in Eternal River City can't cure me. Don't waste your energy." Tisk, Jiang Chen was speechless. He directly pressed his palm on the woman's abdomen. Just as the woman was about to resist, she felt a warm current spreading from her lower abdomen and gradually enveloping her entire body. This feeling made her temporarily forget the pain in her body. Her limbs relaxed as she lay down. Even her gaze became much gentler. "Your injuries are indeed not light." Jiang Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. "No matter how bad it has nothing to do with you." The woman bit her lip. "Seeing that we're fated, I'll help you this time." Jiang Chen took out a small bottle from his storage ring, poured out a pill, and directly stuffed it into the woman's mouth. "What did you give me to eat?" The woman instinctively swallowed, but soon felt that something was wrong. "Poison," Jiang Chen said casually. The woman still wanted to say something, but she suddenly felt a wave of sleepiness. She thought that she was at the end of her life, so she didn't resist and directly closed her eyes, welcoming her death. Jiang Chen walked out and waved his hand to set up a barrier of immortal power outside the room, temporarily protecting the safety of the person inside. What a loss! Jiang Chen couldn't help but sigh as he walked back with his hands behind his back. Chapter 1703. The immortal jade just now was a gift from Lin Baichao back in the village. It could remove the poison in the body of anyone below the immortal supremacy level. This kind of elixir could be sold for at least hundreds of millions of immortal jades in a decent auction. However, at that moment, he had only touched it by chance, and he had unexpectedly made such a loss-making deal. It was really not like Jiang Chen's character. After returning to the manor, Jiang Chen forgot about this matter. He touched her chest and gave her a life-saving pill. He had done his best. What happened after that had nothing to do with him. Walking to the door, Jiang Chen was about to push the door open when he saw a girl sitting next to him. "What are you doing here?" Jiang Chen recognized her as Wei Qing's sister. "Big brother Jiang Chen, I have something to say to you." Wei Xiaoqiao stood up awkwardly. Her hands were constantly kneading the corners of her clothes. Her face was red. "Are you very hot?" Seeing her like this, Jiang Chen asked with a smile. "No, I'm not hot. I just have something to say to you." Wei Xiaoqiao shook her head. How could she have the nerve to say such words? "If you have something to say, then say it. I'm listening." Jiang Chen leaned against the door. "Let's go in. I want to say these words to you in the room." Wei Xiaoqiao continued to shake her head. There were guards patrolling Jiang Chen's room at all times. "If they heard this, please come in." Jiang Chen pushed the door open and walked straight in. Wei Xiaoqiao was the young miss of the Wei clan. Her father was now working under him, so he should give her some face. Jiang Chen poured her a glass of water. But Wei Xiaoqiao sat on a chair by the door, hugging her legs. "If you have something to say, then say it. If not, then go out. Don't disturb my sleep." Jiang Chen frowned slightly. He felt that this girl was a little mentally unstable. "I'll say it." Wei Xiaoqiao mustered up her courage. "Okay, I'm listening." Jiang Chen sat on the bed. "Big brother Jiang Chen, you're now the young master of the Heavenly Province Bank. Can you let my big brother go? Don't take his life. I'm willing to do anything." Wei Xiaoqiao kept cheering herself on. When her face was so red that it was almost cooked, she finally mustered up her courage, stood up, and pulled off her clothes. F***CK. This gave Jiang Chen quite a fright. He quickly closed his eyes. Fortunately, Wei Xiaoqiao was wearing another layer inside. Otherwise, he would have really made a mistake. "Big brother Jiang Chen, I'll call you young master from now on." Wei Xiaoqiao's hands trembled. She had never felt so ashamed before. Don't. I'm not interested in your big brother, and I'm not interested in you. Go back to where you came from. Otherwise, I'll throw you out, Jiangchen said in a low voice, pointing at the door with his eyes closed. Young master, my big brother offended you. Please don't hurt him for my sake. Wei Xiaoqiao didn't listen to Jiangchen's words. Her head was buzzing. I'm sorry. Jiangchen flipped his palm. A thick cotton coat appeared and wrapped Wei Xiaoqiao up. Then, he gently lifted her up and prepared to open the door and send her out. But when he opened the door, he saw a woman standing outside. You're really a hooligan. A familiar voice rang in Jiang Chen's ears. Xiao Xiao stood at the door and looked at the girl being lifted up by Jiang Chen. Her face was instantly filled with anger. After Jiang Chen left for a short while, she had recovered and felt that her body was fine. She realized that she had misunderstood Jiang Chen and hurried to apologize. In order to enter the manor, she gave the remaining 5 celestial jades to the guards. After learning about Jiang Chen's residence, she hurried over. Who would have thought that she would see such a scene before she even knocked on the door? Miss, you've misunderstood. Jiang Chen opened his eyes, slapped his forehead, and sighed helplessly. Who misunderstood? I thought you were a good person. I didn't expect you to be no different from those hooligans. What a waste of my 5 celestial jades. Xiao Xiao snorted and walked out. Jiang Chen didn't chase after her. Instead, he slowly put Wei Xiaoqiao down. Listen to me. I won't hurt your big brother. You'd better do what you should do. Jiang Chen sighed deeply. Really? Wei Xiaoqiao's eyes were filled with tears. She had mustered up her courage to come to Jiang Chen's place, but she didn't expect that Jiang Chen had no interest in her at all. It's absolutely true. Hurry up and leave. Jiang Chen waved his hand. Wei Xiaoqiao turned around and quickly ran out. Looking at her back, Jiang Chen closed the door and lay on the bed in a daze. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have gone out today. Not only had he lost hundreds of millions of celestial jades, but he had also been treated as a hooligan. Jiang Chen hadn't experienced such a thankless thing in a long time. After Wei Xiaoqiao went out, she directly returned to her residence. Seeing her come back wearing a man's clothes, Wei Qing was delighted. He thought that his sister had already taken down Jiang Chen. Then he could live safely in Eternal River City in the future. Sister, big brother has let you down. Although he was happy, Wei Qing still pretended to be in pain and said to Wei Xiaoqiao, who was walking in, Big brother, Jiang Chen didn't touch me at all. Wei Xiaoqiao took off her coat and threw it on the ground. The moment it touched the ground, the coat turned into a wisp of celestial force and dissipated. What did you say? Jiang Chen didn't touch you. Wei Qing's expression froze. He looked at his sister's somewhat messy clothes and asked in a deep voice, Why were you the one who backed off in the end? No, it's Jiang Chen who has no interest in me. And he told me to come back at ease and that he wouldn't do anything to us in the future. Wei Xiaoqiao shook her head and repeated Jiang Chen's words word for word. Wei Qing's expression didn't relax. Instead, it became even angrier. You're too naive. You actually believed everything Jiang Chen said. Wei Qing coldly snorted and said, He can't kill us, but he can send guards to kill us. Ah? Wei Xiaoqiao couldn't think of this at all. Think about it. When we lived in Tianfu City, there were hundreds of people who came to our house to propose marriage every day. Jiang Chen is also a normal man. How could he not be moved by you? The only explanation is that he still wants to kill us, so he has no interest in you. Wei Qing analyzed. Then what should we do? Wei Xiaoqiao began to feel afraid again. Now that things have come to this, there's only one way. Wei Qing thought for a while and said, I'll find an opportunity to drug him and knock him out. After that, you go and serve him. Once you have physical contact, I'll be his brother-in-law. If he kills me, the entire celestial realm will point at his back and curse him. Chapter 1704. Wei Qing said what he thought was a perfect opportunity. Wei Xiaoqiao lowered her head. She had never thought that she would have to hand herself over in this way. But thinking about it, she had already decided to sacrifice herself to Jiang Chen. It didn't matter what method she used. Sister, Jiang Chen is now the young master of the Heavenly Province Bank and has a good relationship with Song Yuanjia. As long as we can get close to him, not only will we not be in danger in the future, we will even be able to live a better life than before. Wei Qing hurriedly said when he saw that his sister was in low spirits. I know. Wei Xiaoqiao replied softly. All right, you go back and rest first. I will inform you when I'm done. Wei Qing waved his hand and exhaled heavily as he turned around, celebrating his new lease on life. They stayed in the Ganges Bank for nearly a week. During this time, Wei Daxuan reported all the accounts of the Heavenly Province Bank to Song Yuanjia. Song Yuanjia had appointed a trusted subordinate to accept the reports and return to Tianfu City with him. While managing the bank, he also monitored the Wei clan to see if they had any ulterior motives. Zhang Chun went over twice, but he really wasn't interested in the contents of the accounts. As a result, in his spare time, he would take Hikari to wander around the town. Huafu and Jiang Yuan disappeared on the first day of their arrival in the Eternal River City. They said they would go out to eat, and they would come back when Zhang Chun was about to leave. On this day, Zhang Chun took Hikari for a stroll on the streets. Not far away, a shadow disguised as a middle-aged man was staring at Zhang Chun. When she saw Zhang Chun holding the little girl's hand, she was even more certain of her thoughts. Bah! He doesn't care about the girl at all. He is indeed a pervert among perverts, a scum among scum. Xiao Xiao stared at Zhang Chun's back. Her good impression of him had been shattered by the scene in the room. Achoo! Zhang Chun's body trembled, and he sneezed heavily a few times. F***CK, who is talking behind my back? Zhang Chun looked around. Master, I want to eat meat. When they arrived at the entrance of the tavern, Hikari pulled Zhang Chun's arm and stood still. She kept shaking his arm and said softly, I'll take you to eat meat. Zhang Chun looked up. This was the tavern where he had met that woman. When he entered, Zhang Chun subconsciously trembled, afraid that someone would rush out again. It was the same as before, a large pot of wild beef. Zhang Chun was a little curious. Hikari was only 12 or 13 years old. Even if she had already become a cultivator, she shouldn't have such a big appetite. When all these pieces of beef were piled together, they were probably almost as tall as her. Zhang Chun couldn't help but sigh as he watched Hikari eat to her heart's content. Fortunately, he had obtained a lot of treasures from the immortal emperor's tomb and had some wealth. Now he had the Heavenly Province Bank. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to raise his disciple. While Zhang Chun was looking at Hikari, Xiao Xiao, who was disguised as a middle-aged man, swept past from behind and rushed straight to the upper floor of the tavern. In less than an hour, all the wild beef was in Hikari's stomach. Zhang Chun only smelled it and didn't even eat a piece. Are you full? Zhang Chun asked with a smile. I'm still a little hungry. Hikari also knew that she had eaten too much. However, ever since she became a cultivator, she felt that she couldn't eat until she was full. Moreover, every time she ate, she would become very hungry in a short while. Shopkeeper, give me some more beef. Zhang Chun didn't hesitate and shouted at the counter. With his current strength, not to mention wild beef, even fresh beef could fill Hikari's stomach. Coming! The shopkeeper shouted and brought another wooden pot over. He placed it between Zhang Chun and Hikari. Hikari's eyes lit up and she stretched out her small hand, ready to take it. Before she could stuff the beef into her mouth, a beautiful figure flashed by and a gust of wind blew. The entire pot of beef fell to the ground and was covered in dust. Wah! Hikari stayed where she was and cried with heartache. Seeing this, Zhang Chun quickly hugged her in his arms and comforted her. When Hikari stopped crying, Zhang Chun looked at the door. He felt that the figure just now was familiar. Do you still want to eat? Zhang Chun patted Hikari's head. No, I'll eat until I'm poor. Hikari shook her head. She didn't know much about immortal jades. The only thing she knew was that buying a pot of beef cost 10 immortal jades. She had to fight in the underground arena for an entire day to earn that much. It's okay. I'll let someone else treat you. Zhang Chun's lips curled into a smile. He carried Hikari and left the tavern. In the rundown house, Xiao Xiao took out a large piece of meat from between her clothes. She stole it directly from the kitchen of the tavern. The chef didn't even cut it. So comfortable. Xiao Xiao took a bite and chewed with satisfaction. Ever since her body recovered, She clearly felt that her speed had increased a lot. That group of people could no longer catch up to her. You said I was a pervert, so you're the real thief. After eating for a while, Jiang Chen's cold snort sounded. With the lesson of pushing the door open last time, Jiang Chun directly flashed in. Xiao Xiao was stunned and quickly put the beef behind her. What I do has nothing to do with you. Moreover, I saw you being a pervert with my own eyes. Don't try to deny it. Xiao Xiao looked up at Jiang Chun. How interesting. No matter what, I'm your savior. Is this how you treat your savior? Jiang Chun couldn't help but laugh. Thank you for saving me. Xiao Xiao's face turned red. You don't have to thank me. I didn't want to meddle in your business. But when you left the tavern, you knocked my beef to the ground. So, you have to compensate us. Jiang Chun pulled Hikari and sat on a wooden stool that was about to fall apart. Don't even think about it. It wasn't easy for me to take it out. Xiao Xiao was a little nervous. She quickly reached behind her. However, the beef that she had placed behind her was nowhere to be seen. Xiao Xiao took a closer look. The beef had appeared in Jiang Chen's hands without her noticing. Jiang Chen handed it to the little girl, and the little girl began to eat it. You. Xiao Xiao swallowed her saliva and pointed at Jiang Chen. What about you? This is what you should compensate us. My disciple didn't mind you taking a bite. That's already giving you face. Jiang Chen didn't give in at all. Disciple? Xiao Xiao was stunned when she saw the girl beside Jiang Chen. Of course. Do you think everyone is as filthy as you? Jiang Chen sneered. Realizing that she had misunderstood Jiang Chen, Xiao Xiao's expression became a little unnatural. She thought of the girl that Jiang Chen had lifted up that day. Chapter 1705. Xiao Xiao felt that she might have really misunderstood him. That girl you carried that day, who is she to you? Don't tell me she's also your disciple? Xiao Xiao swallowed her saliva as she spoke in a low voice. That's none of your business, Jiang Chun said in an annoyed tone. Ever since he met this woman, he had never had a good time. I'm sorry. I might have really misunderstood you. Xiao Xiao stood up and walked up to Jiang Chun, kneading her hands. She said with a smile, Thank you for the elixir you gave me the other day. The poison in my body has been completely removed. Even my injuries have recovered. Hikari, let's leave after eating this beef. We don't have to stay here. Jiang Chun did not want to bother with her at all. Now, whenever he thought of that pill, Jiang Chun's heart would bleed. I still have some here. If it's not enough, I'll go get more for you. Although she said that, Xiao Xiao pulled out a box from under the wooden bed and took out a large piece of dried beef. Although the room was very dirty, there was not a speck of dust on this piece of beef. It could be seen that it had been preserved very carefully. Thank you, big sister. Hikari had just finished the piece of beef in her hand when she saw Xiao Xiao bring over another piece. Her eyes immediately lit up and she reached out to take it. After thanking her, she immediately began to eat. What did you call me? You called me big sister. Xiao Xiao felt as if she had been struck by lightning. Her entire body froze on the spot. Her mind was filled with thoughts, and she was pulled back to an hour later. At that time, she was living in a family with some status in the northern region and had a very cute little sister. However, this beautiful scenery did not last long before a disaster befell her family. Jiang Chun did not know what she was thinking. However, when he saw her staring at Hikari without moving, he thought that she was feeling sorry for the beef. All right, I'll be a good person until the end. Jiang Chun sighed and took out a promissory note worth 100,000 immortal jade from his storage ring. He handed it over. This money should be enough for you to live for a long time. Find a proper job and don't do these sneaky things. Otherwise, if you get caught one day, I'm afraid you'll lose your life. Xiao Xiao completely ignored Jiang Chun. Let's go. This person's mental state is somewhat abnormal. After Hikari finished eating the beef, Jiang Chun hurriedly pulled her away. Xiao Xiao's eyes followed Jiang Chun and Hikari. If his younger sister had not met with a mishap back then, she would also be this big now, and would also grow up to be this cute. Thinking of the past, Xiao Xiao's tears streamed down. She walked to the wooden stool that Hikari had just made, bent down and carefully put away the piece of beef that Hikari had just dropped. Master, I feel that big sister seems to be a little disappointed. On the way back, Hikari rubbed her belly contentedly. You ate 2 big pieces of beef from her. Of course she would be disappointed, Jiang Chun replied casually. He didn't want to see that woman anymore. Every time he met her, nothing good happened. Today, he had wasted another 100,000 immortal jades. After returning to the manor, Jiang Chun received the news. Tomorrow morning, Wei Dashuan and a group of people from the Ganges Bank would return to Tianfu City. Therefore, a banquet was naturally arranged at night. As the new young master of the Tianfu Bank, Jiang Chun naturally had to attend. Song Yuanjia had delivered the news in person. He had been busy with the Bank of the Land of Abundance these days. He hadn't had time to visit Jiang Chun at all. He felt a little guilty, but since he had delivered the news, he decided to visit Jiang Chun and talk to him. Young master, I haven't seen Jiang Chun and Huofu in a while. They can't be absent from tonight's banquet. Song Yuanjia sat upright in Jiang Chun's room. They went out. When I leave, they will follow. You don't have to worry about it. Jiang Chun waved his hand and said. Although Huofu and Jiang Yuan had transformed into human form, their bodies were still immortal beasts. They were not used to living like humans. When they were in Kunlun Immortal Mountain, it was still okay. They had unscrupulously reverted to their original forms and hunted in the mountains. But after coming out, they could not suppress it anymore. Then young master must come. I have to let them know you. Song Yuanjia nodded and continued. You didn't tell them my identity, right? Jiang Chun looked at him. Of course not. I only told them that you were the new young lord of the Bank of the Land of Abundance. I didn't mention anything about the school, and I never called you young lord. Song Yuanjia hurried to shake his head. He took everything Jiang Chun had said to heart, and he would obey him resolutely. Well done. Jiang Chun smiled. Then, young master, you rest first. I will send a servant to pick you up in the evening. At that time, even Hikari will attend. Song Yuanjia got up and saluted Jiang Chun before retreating. Go. Jiang Chun lay down on the bed. In the evening, in the manor's largest living room, Song Yuanjia had invited the best chef in the town. Not only Wei Dashuan, but even Wei Qing and Wei Xiaoqiao were invited. Although the two of them were trapped in the manor, Song Yuanjia still had to act on the surface and not give anyone the chance to talk about him. When Jiang Chun appeared, everyone stood up. The people from the Ganges riverbank didn't know who Jiang Chun was, but since Song Yuanjia was so respectful to Jiang Chun, there was no problem for them to follow suit. Are you ready? In the corner, Wei Qing held the jade bottle in his hand and asked in a low voice. Wei Xiaoqiao nodded lightly. Success or failure depends on tonight. You must make Jiang Chun your man. Otherwise, our lives will always be in the hands of others. Who knows when it will be gone? Looking at Jiang Chun, who wasn't far away, Wei Qing clenched his fists. He still couldn't figure out why Song Yuanjia valued a mere celestial immortal so much that he even gave him the Heavenly Province Bank. I know, big brother. Wei Xiaoqiao had already convinced herself in her heart. Hikari was sitting next to Jiang Chun. She started eating as soon as the dishes were served. No one on the scene had the nerve to say anything. They just kept praising her for her naivety and cuteness. Everyone knew this girl had a good relationship with Jiang Chun, and Jiang Chun was the Grand Elder's most valued guest at the moment. Young master, in the future, we will definitely sacrifice our lives for you and the Tianfu Bank. Wei Dashuan raised his wine and said respectfully to Jiang Chun. In his opinion, he was already very satisfied to be able to live with his son and daughter. As for the Tianfu Bank, status, and fame, they were completely unimportant. They were like floating clouds that didn't have any weight in his heart. Jiang Chun also raised his wine and replied, Let's also toast. The others who were going to the Tianfu Bank also raised their glasses. Chapter 1706. Jiang Chun replied with a smile. Big brother Jiang Chun. At this moment, Wei Qing's voice rang out. The others all looked over, and Song Yuanjia frowned slightly. He knew that Wei Qing and Jiang Chun had some grudges. If the former dared to cause trouble here, even if Wei Dashuan was present, he would still act and kill him. Wei Dashuan's hand, that was holding the wine cup, trembled. Oh, young Master Wei? Jiang Chun was also a little surprised. Brother Jiang Chun, I didn't recognize you. I offended you by accident. I hope you won't hold a grudge against me. Don't lower yourself to my level. Wei Qing walked directly in front of Jiang Chun and reached out to take Jiang Chun's wine. As he passed it to Jiang Chun, he secretly sprinkled some medicinal powder inside. Wei Dashuan heaved a sigh of relief and nodded with satisfaction, knowing when to yield and when not to. This was the demeanor that his son should have. I've already forgotten. Jiang Chun wouldn't make things difficult for Wei Qing. After all, his father was already working for him. If he still made things difficult for him, he would be a little petty. Big brother Jiang Chun, I'll drink. Wei Qing raised his wine cup and drank it in one gulp. Not bad. Jiang Chun nodded and also drank all the wine. In the future, live well in Eternal River City and don't cause trouble. It's fine if you provoke me, but if you accidentally provoke a celestial lord or a celestial lord, then you won't have the chance to regret it. Thank you, big brother Jiang Chun, for your teachings. Wei Qing lowered his head and replied. The banquet continued, but Wei Qing found an opportunity to leave with Wei Xiaoqiao. Standing in the shadow of the manor, Wei Qing said in a low voice, I spent a lot of effort to get that bottle of medicine. Not to mention that he is a celestial immortal. Even a deity would be unconscious for 3 days and 3 nights after drinking it. Big brother, Jiang Chun, and Song Yuanjia have a good relationship. Now that father is working under him. If we do this, won't we offend him? Wei Xiaoqiao's face was red. I've already told you many times before. On the surface, this person let us go, but in reality, he will still make a move behind our backs. If we want to live here peacefully, we have to rope him in. Wei Qing grabbed Wei Xiaoqiao and said with bloodshot eyes, as long as you can get him into your bed, then we can do whatever we want in Eternal River City. Big brother, you're hurting me. Wei Xiaoqiao tried her best to shrink back. Just take it as I'm begging you. If you don't deal with him, I'm afraid I'll really die. Wei Qing looked flustered. Xiaoqiao, for the sake of big brother, you should be Jiang Chen's woman. I already agreed. Wei Xiaoqiao sighed. She didn't want to hand herself over to strangers, but she had already agreed to it once, and she really didn't want to see her brother die in front of her. Okay. Jiang Chun has already drunk the medicine. The rest is up to you. Wei Qing became abnormally agitated and hurriedly dragged Wei Xiaoqiao back. The banquet ended quickly. When almost all the guests had left, Jiang Chun moved a stool and sat beside Song Yuanjia. Seeing Jiang Chun come over, Song Yuanjia wanted to call him young master, but he held back. Great shopkeeper Song. Jiang Chun narrowed his eyes and smiled. Young master, you can just call me little Song, Song Yuanjia said in a low voice. No, I still want to call you great shopkeeper Song. Jiang Chun hurriedly waved his hand. He didn't have that kind of vulgar taste. Great shopkeeper Song, I have something to ask you. In the Heaven and Earth Pharmacy, the elders called Lin Baichao Elder Ji, but to me in the outside world, his surname is Lin. Song Yuanjia thought for a while and asked, is the person you're talking about surnamed Song like me? Should be. Jiang Chun replied. That elder Song, like Lin Baichao and me, escaped from the Tianji sect. Internally, he called Lin Baichao Elder Ji because his original name was Ji Yuan. To the outside world, he called him Elder Lin. After all, Ji Yuan's name is still somewhat famous in the immortal world. Song Yuanjia didn't hesitate and directly told the truth. What about you, great shopkeeper Song? Jiang Chun asked. It's been too long. I've already forgotten my previous name. Song Yuanjia's eyes dimmed. This was almost unacceptable to anyone. In the entire immortal realm, the disciples and elders of the Tianji sect all lived in anonymity. They had almost no contact with each other before, and he and Lin Baichao only met again by chance and coincidence. Okay, then I won't ask. Jiang Chun didn't pursue the matter. He was just satisfying his curiosity. Young master, now that the banquet is over, I'll send you back to rest. Seeing that everyone in the hall had left, Song Yuanjia stood up and held Jiang Chun's arm as he spoke respectfully. I can return to the Kunlun Immortal Mountain? Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile. Of course you can. Now young master just needs to wait for the immortal jade from the Tianfu Bank. Song Yuanjia nodded and continued. But if young master wants to live in the Ganges city, I'm very happy. I'm willing to do anything for young master. Really? Jiang Qin's eyes flashed. But soon he shook his head. I'd better go back. I'm now a disciple of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain and can't leave often. Breaking free from Song Yuanjia's support, Jiang Qin walked out. Now that the Tianfu Bank and the Ganges Bank were his territory, there was no need to ask too much. An endless supply was the best way to use it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to get any benefits in the future. Young master, take care. Song Yuanjia bowed and watched Jiang Qin leave before he went to do other things. Back in the guest room, Jiang Qin spat out a mouthful of saliva. When Wei Qing toasted him at the banquet, he clearly felt that something was wrong. But because there were so many people present, Jiang Qin didn't lower himself to his level. The saliva he spat out was the medicinal powder. Lying on the bed, Jiang Qin prepared to return to the Kunlun Immortal Mountain tomorrow morning. Big brother Jiang Qin, are you asleep? After a while, a soft voice sounded outside the room. This voice sounded soft and seductive. If a normal man heard it, he probably wouldn't be able to resist. Jiang Qin didn't answer. From her words, it was obvious that she was Wei Dashuan's daughter. Seeing that no one answered, Wei Xiaoqiao tiptoed and pushed open the door. In the darkness, she walked to the bedside and saw Jiang Qin lying on the bed with his eyes closed. She unconsciously bit her lips and gently took off her clothes. Why? Are you taking the initiative to offer yourself? Jiang Qin opened his eyes in time. He originally thought that it was an assassination, but he didn't expect it to be such a situation. Chapter 1707. Ah! Wei Xiaoqiao cried out in surprise. She stumbled back and hit the door. She clutched her clothes tightly with both hands, and her face was red. Even though she had already decided to give herself to Jiang Qin, now that Jiang Qin had exposed her, she was still embarrassed and ashamed. Tell me, who asked you to come? Jiang Qin asked with a smile as he sat on the bed. No one asked me to come. Wei Xiaoqiao was worried that if she told the truth, Jiang Qin might kill her brother, so she quickly shook her head. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's. I came to see if you were asleep. If you weren't, I'll get you a cup of water to drink. Is that so? Jiang Qin stood up and walked in front of her. You stay away from me. Wei Xiaoqiao lowered her head, not daring to look at Jiang Qin. She had never been so close to a man before. When she smelled Jiang Qin's scent, she even felt her face burn. She instinctively wanted to reject him. How interesting. You took the initiative to offer yourself. But you want me to stay away, Jiang Qin said calmly. The smile on his face disappeared. Wei Xiaoqiao didn't know how to reply. Go back. Go back and tell your brother that I have no interest in him. As long as he lives honestly in Eternal River City and doesn't affect my matters, I won't make things difficult for him. If he dares to ruin my matters, I'll make him disappear completely from the celestial realm. Jiang Qin waved his hand. He had no interest in a little girl like Wei Xiaoqiao. I'll go back and tell my brother. Wei Xiaoqiao didn't dare to stay for long. When she left the room, tears flowed down her cheeks. She had made up her mind to give herself to Jiang Qin, but she didn't expect that Jiang Qin didn't take her seriously at all. She couldn't accept this. The next day, after Jiang Qin woke up, he spread out a wisp of celestial power. When it was close to noon, Hua Fu and Jiang Yuan flew in from outside Eternal River City. The two of them had satisfied expressions on their faces. After seeing Jiang Qin, they put away their arrogant and complacent expressions. After all, Jiang Qin was now the young master of the Tianji sect. On the surface, he was just a cultivator with the cultivation of a celestial immortal, but in the dark, he was their master. Pack up and bring Hikari back. Jiang Qin didn't care what they were going to do. Are you done? Hua Fu put her hands on her hips. She could smell the scent of another woman on Jiang Qin's body. Well, we just have to wait for the money from the Heavenly Province Bank. Jiang Qin nodded and said, after returning, we still have to investigate the situation of the Citra family. The Citra family? Fire Lotus and Zhang Yuan had never heard of this family. According to the information that Great Elder Su Qian found out, it is the second branch of the Black Sect besides the Black Cloud Sect. In the northern and eastern regions, there are 10 sects under the Black Sect. Zhang Chen took a deep breath and told them the situation. Anyway, he was now the young master of the Tianji sect. He could be sure that Hua Fu and Zhang Yuan would not betray him. It seems that this Black Sect is more complicated than we thought. Hua Fu's expression gradually became serious. She looked at Zhang Chen for a while and then said in a low voice, "Maybe one of the sects we came into contact with before is a branch of the Black Sect." Zhang Yuan followed. "That's not very likely. There are at least hundreds of sects in the northern and eastern regions. When I came to the immortal world, I only met a few sections. They probably have nothing to do with the Black Sect." Zhang Chen shook his head. During this time, he also sorted out all the things he encountered after he ascended to the immortal world. He did not find any similarities between those sects and the Black Sect. "I think we should go back quickly and tell the news to the lords of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. They have a better understanding of the current immortal world." Fire Lotus ran into the manor. After a while, she came out with Ikari, who had just woken up. The four of them did not hesitate and immediately left the Eternal River City. Just as they were leaving, Zhang Chen glanced in the direction of the town. At the same time, Xiao Xiao, who was sitting in the room, seemed to have sensed something. She walked out of the house and looked in the direction of the Eternal River City gate. Since Ikari called her sister, she could no longer forget this little girl. But she was afraid that if she went rashly, it would cause Zhang Chen to be disgusted. So she decided to wait a few days and see the situation. Kunlun Immortal Mountain. Ever since Zhang Chen won the Great Sect competition, all the disciples' attitude towards Zhang Chen had softened a lot. At this time, Zhang Chen was lying on the bed in Mystic Moon's room. His hands were constantly caressing her delicate thighs. While he was enjoying it, Zhang Chen also told her the news. "The first Mountain Lord has already told us this." Mystic Moon did not appear to be surprised. "Oh, she told you?" Zhang Chen sat up. "That's right. After you told her about it, she summoned all of us immediately. She told us about the Citra family and the Black School subsects in the east and north. Xinyu didn't get angry because of what Zhang Chen had done. Instead, she took the opportunity to lie in his arms." "Then what did you decide?" Zhang Chen was curious. "Of course, it was to investigate this Citra clan. We've already sent out many people, but unfortunately, we haven't gotten any news yet." Mystic Moon softly told him about the situation in the sect. "When we attacked the Black Cloud sect, someone stabbed us in the back and killed some elders. If we continue to attack the Citra family, I don't think the headmaster of the Black School will stay idle." Gazing at the pure woman beside him, Zhang Chen was not interested in her at all at the moment. "It's okay. In the immortal realm, the strongest are the three immortal kings. No matter how high the Black Sect Lord's cultivation is, or how mysterious the outer region is, he can't be stronger than the three immortal kings. We're not even afraid of Xian Jun. Why should we be afraid of him? Don't forget, although we 9 lords are immortal monarchs on the surface, our strength is not below that of an immortal king. The 8th Mountain Lord, Yangju, is at the peak of his strength. He calls himself a real immortal king." Mystic Moon smiled and comforted him. "Then can you protect me?" Zhang Chen blinked and snuggled into Mystic Moon's arms. "Go away." Mystic Moon pushed Zhang Chen away and said, "Try to offend more experts. When the time comes, even our Kunlun Immortal Mountain can't protect you. At that time, we'll throw you out and let you fend for yourself." "What a vicious woman." Zhang Chen sighed and said helplessly. "Humph." Mystic Moon snorted coldly. She was very gentle with Zhang Chen. "If you have time, go to Wei Yu's place. She went to Eternal River City recently. When she came back, she told me to inform you." "Lord Wei Yu, why did she go to Eternal River City?" Zhang Chen turned around and asked. Chapter 1708. How would I know about Wei Yu's matters? Xian Yu snorted. "But I advise you to be careful. Ever since she came back, her complexion has not been very good." Zhang Chen did not speak. Wasn't Gangha City the most chaotic period not long ago? If Wei Yu was there, it was very likely that she saw what he did. Jiang Chun was a little worried. He did not want to let the Kunlun Immortal Mountain know about the Tianji sect, but Wei Yu and Xian Yu were his women. There was no harm in telling them. What are you thinking about? Seeing Jiang Chun sitting on the bed in a daze, Xian Yu waved her hand in front of him. Nothing, I'm just a little tired and want to rest for a while. Jiang Chun took the opportunity to pull the woman beside him into his arms, but his hands kept touching her body. Xian Yu's face was slightly red. Thinking that Jiang Chun might not do anything out of line in broad daylight, she did not stop him. After having a good time, Jiang Chun arrived at the sixth mountain. Unexpectedly, just as he reached the peak, a whip came whistling through the air. Wei Yu! Jiang Chun was struck dumb. He hurried to dodge it. The whip brushed against Jiang Chun's back. If he had been a little slower, he would have been hit by the whip. Fortunately, Wei Yu was not ruthless. After dodging twice in a row, Jiang Chun directly grabbed the whip and pulled Wei Yu in front of him. Little girl, are you trying to murder your husband? Looking at the plump beauty in front of him, Jiang Chun felt his heart ripple even though he had been with Xian Yu for a while. He could not help but move closer to Wei Yu's lips. Let go of me. There are so many disciples watching. Wei Yu did not expect Jiang Chun to go so far. Mountain Lord Wei Yu, may I know why you called me here? Jiang Chun turned his head and saw that there were indeed some disciples not far away who were watching them. He immediately panicked and quickly let go of Wei Yu and pretended to ask. Let's talk inside. Wei Yu tidied up her messy clothes and pretended to be calm. Walking into the main hall and seeing that there was no one else inside, Jiang Chun let go. Sitting cross-legged on the chair at the head of the table, Jiang Chun saw some pastries on the small table next to him and picked them up to eat. While eating, his eyes were constantly sizing up Wei Yu's figure. Keep your eyes shut. Wei Yu waved the whip in her hand. Okay. Jiang Chun shrugged. Previously, when the first Mountain Lord told me about the Citra family, I had already sent people to investigate. Later on, I found out that this family had been active in the vicinity of Eternal River City. They had even taken care of the largest foundry family in Eternal River City, Wei Yu said as she put away her whip and sat beside Jiang Chun. You went to Eternal River City just for this? Jiang Chun let out a sigh of relief. Otherwise? Wei Yu coldly snorted. Do you think I want to meddle in your affairs? Thank you for helping me. I have nothing to repay you with, so I can only repay you with my body. Jiang Chun chuckled and moved closer to Wei Yu. Why don't we do it today? Don't force me to hit you. If you repay me with your body, then what will happen to Xian Yu and your disciple Bai Feng Yu? Wei Yu was a little angry. She would not be as foolish as Xian Yu to give herself away. Although she liked Jiang Chun, she wanted to get the complete Jiang Chun and did not want to compete with other women for his favor. Jiang Chun awkwardly coughed. What Wei Yu did not know was that Bai Feng Yu was not the only female disciple he had. Don't tell me you have other. Wei Yu understood Jiang Chun too well. She could vaguely guess some clues from Jiang Chun's expression. Not good, Mountain Lord Wei Yu. I just received news from the mountain gate. Bai Feng Yu and Hikari of the ninth mountain have mysteriously disappeared. Just as Jiang Chun was about to explain, a disciple of the sixth mountain hurriedly ran in. After tripping over the threshold, he scrambled in and shouted, What did you say? As soon as he said this, the smile on Jiang Chun's face instantly froze. He slowly stood up from his seat. Even the air in the main hall seemed to have frozen and was filled with a cold voice. What's going on? How can they disappear in our Kunlun, Celestial Mountain? Wei Yu frowned and immediately asked, I don't know. It's the news from Mountain Lord Xian Yu of the ninth mountain. Now the entire Kunlun, Celestial Mountain, is under martial law. All the disciples of the first mountain and the ninth mountain have been mobilized and are carefully investigating every place in the mountain gate. However, it seems that there is no progress. The disciple stood up and panted heavily. As he panted, he touched his chest and said, Jiang Chun, Wei Yu knew that Bai Feng Yu and Hikari were very important to Jiang Chun. Moreover, after spending some time together, she also had deep feelings for Hikari. However, Just as she was about to turn around and talk to Jiang Chun, she saw Jiang Chen's figure flash out of the main hall like a shooting star. Pass down my order. From the elders of the sixth mountain to the disciples who have just entered the mountain gate, everyone is to immediately put down what they are doing and investigate the inside of Kunlun, Celestial Mountain, carefully. In addition, send people from the information hall to leave the sect and search in all directions for information. Wei Yu did not lose her ability to think because of this urgent situation. After standing in place for a while, she immediately gave the order. Yes, Mountain Lord. After the disciple agreed, he immediately ran out. At this time, Kunlun, Celestial Mountain, was no longer as peaceful as before. Countless disciples were going back and forth to investigate. Not only the 9 mountain gates, but even the endless mountain range behind the mountain gates had disciples diving into it. Jiang Chun rushed back to the 9th mountain. He had only left for less than an hour. Who would have thought that such a big thing would happen? Xin Yu sat at the entrance of the main hall. Beside her stood Hua Fu and Zhang Yuan with their heads lowered. The two of them were in a very low mood. After seeing Jiang Chun, they did not even dare to raise their heads. Xin Yu, what's going on? How did Feng Yu and Hikari disappear from Kunlun, Celestial Mountain? Jiang Chun walked in front of Xin Yu and took a deep breath. He suppressed the anger and uneasiness in his heart and tried to appear as calm as possible. It's our problem. Zhang Yuan faced Jiang Chun, but still did not dare to raise his head. Jiang Chun frowned slightly. Hikari wanted to follow us to the mountain range to play. Feng Yu couldn't bear to part with her, so she came with us. Hua Fu stood up. In the past, when she faced Jiang Chun, she would stick out her chest and raise her head. She would even say a few words to flirt with him. However, today, she was like an eggplant that had been hit by frost wilting. You two are immortal lords. Could it be that someone can snatch them away from you? Jiang Chen's frown deepened. Chapter 1709. Sigh. Hua Fu and I were a little playful. We thought that there wouldn't be any danger in the Kunlun, Celestial Mountain, so we let Feng Yu play with Hikari for a while. We didn't expect that a few minutes later, there would be a strong fluctuation of immortal power in the mountain range. When we chased after them, Feng Yu and Hikari were already gone. Zhang Yuan's voice became lower and lower until it couldn't be heard. The mountain range doesn't belong to the Kunlun, Celestial Mountain. It's just a little closer. Xian Yu sighed. When Hua Fu and Zhang Yuan first went, she didn't care at all. She knew that with their cultivation of immortal lords, even if there were many wild beasts in the mountain range, they would definitely not encounter any danger. But she never expected that by Feng Yu and Hikari would also enter and even get into trouble. Phew! Jiang Chun exhaled a mouthful of foul air. What should we do now? Zhang Yuan didn't know what to do. He was completely no different from a child who had done something wrong. What else can we do? Investigate, Jiang Chun said in a deep voice. After saying this, Jiang Chen's figure disappeared again and rushed into the mountain range. Don't just stand there. It's very likely that the person who attacked by Feng Yu and Hikari is the sect master of the Black Sect or his subordinates. Jiang Chen's cultivation is only at the 4th level of the Heaven Immortal Realm. If he goes in like this and something happens, you can't bear the responsibility. Xin Yu hurriedly said to Hua Fu and Zhang Yuan as she looked at Jiang Chen's back. Understood. Hua Fu and Zhang Yuan looked at each other and immediately followed without hesitation. Not long after Jiang Chen left, the first mountain lord and Wei Yu gathered at the peak of the 9th mountain. Except for the 3 of them, the other 6 mountain lords didn't move. After all, in such a big sect like the Kunlun Celestial Mountain, it was common for disciples to go missing. Although they could all go out to destroy the Black Cloud sect for Jiang Chun, they couldn't panic because of the disappearance of the 2 people around Jiang Chun. In the main hall, Qing Mu stood behind Xian Yu. Mountain lords, almost all the disciples of the 9th mountain have entered the mountain range. The information hall has also been sent out, but we haven't found any clues. Under Xian Yu's signal, Qing Mu explained the situation of the 9th mountain. The same goes for our 6th mountain. Wei Yu sighed softly. I've never seen Jiang Chun lose his composure like this. Seems like Bai Fengyu and Hikari are still somewhat important to him. The first mountain lord crossed her legs. Although she was worried, she wasn't as worried as Wei Yu and Xian Yu. In her view, as long as Jiang Chun was not in danger, she could give an account to Wan Cheng. However, when she thought of Wan Cheng, the first mountain chieftain's face turned gloomy. That stinky man was purposely avoiding her. She didn't even know which woman he was lying in. First Mountain Lord, what do you think? Wei Yu and Xian Yu looked at her at the same time. Although the strength of the 9 mountain lords in the Kunlun Celestial Mountain was similar, because of the relationship between Jiang Chun and Wan Cheng, the two of them were still very respectful to the First Mountain Lord. In my opinion, there's no other way other than investigating. As for whether we can find them or not, it all depends on luck. However, I think that since the other party has captured these two people, it's very likely that they are using them to threaten Jiangchen. Therefore, for the time being, Bai Fengyu and Hikari's lives won't be in danger. The First Mountain Lord pursed her lips and pondered. That's right. Hearing this, Xian Yu and Wei Yu both agreed. In the mountain range, Jiangchen continued to search. However, other than a trace of immortal power, he couldn't sense anything. Jiangchen felt that this immortal power was extremely familiar. It wasn't anyone else's, but the same immortal power as the Black Sky Sect, the Black Sect Master, and even the Black Cloud Sect. It's really them. Jiangchen punched the tree trunk and said in a deep voice, "What's wrong?" Zhang Yuan and Horfu hurriedly ran over. However, they were afraid that Jiangchen would be angry, so they kept a small distance. It's the Black Sect Master's people. Jiangchen took a deep breath. It's our fault. If we had stayed by Bai Fengyu and Hikari's side, I'm afraid it wouldn't be like this. Zhang Yuan lowered his head. Swish! Before Jiang Chun could speak, a white figure swept over. Eldest senior brother, Jiang Chun said, I've already searched all the caves, gaps, and cliffs near the mountain range, but I didn't find them. Bai Xiaoyan shook his head and said, even with his immortal king cultivation base, such anxious actions and the anxiety in his heart still caused fine beads of sweat to seep out from his forehead. This person, I will definitely kill him. Jiang Chen clenched his fist, his eyes sharp. Not only did the Black Sect Master threaten him, but he also attacked the people around him. This was already considered to have touched Jiang Chen's reverse scale. Moreover, this person was inextricably linked to the Black Sky Emperor. Perhaps he could find out the whereabouts of his mother from this person. Don't worry. When I came out, the 9th Mountain had already dispatched the inner disciples and the disciples of the Intelligence Hall. I'm sure they will be able to find out some information. Bai Xiaoyan had never seen Jiang Chun so depressed before, so he stepped forward and patted his shoulder to comfort him. I'm afraid we won't be able to find anything in Kunlun Mountain. Jiang Chun shook his head. Then what do you mean? Bai Xiaoyan asked. The Ganges Bank. Jiang Chun thought of Song Yuanjia. Song Yuanjia's Ganges Bank, as well as his own Tianfu Bank, could be said to be the largest chamber of commerce in the eastern part of the northern region, and even in the entire northern region. Their information hall was definitely much better than that of Kunlun Sect, and the information they gathered was definitely faster and deeper than that of Kunlun Sect. I'll go with you. Bai Xiaoyan was worried that Jiang Chun would do something inappropriate when he was in a complicated mood. Then Huafu and Zhang Yuan spoke at the same time. Both wanted to make a good impression in front of Jiang Chun. You two should stay here. With me accompanying him, nothing will happen to him. You two should continue to investigate the mountain range and the surroundings of Kunlun Mountain. Since they were able to take both of them away, they will definitely leave some clues behind, Bai Xiaoyan said. Eldest senior brother is right. You two should stay. At this point, Jiang Chun did not consider whether Bai Xiaoyan would know his identity as the young master of the Qinna sect. After giving his instructions, Jiang Chun and Bai Xiaoyan turned into two streaks of light and disappeared from the mountain range in an instant. Watching the two of them disappear at the end of his sight, Zhang Yuan sighed faintly. Sigh, we've really caused trouble. If the two of them encounter any danger, I'm afraid the young master will not forgive us. What's the use of saying this now? Hurry up and investigate. Huafu tugged at her skirt. Her eyes were no longer as charming as before. It's not that easy. That person has probably already taken them away from here. Based on the fluctuation of immortal chi, it's definitely around the level of a quasi-immortal king. It's not much weaker than the mountain masters of Kunlun Mountain. Zhang Yuan shook his head and replied. Chapter 1710. Ganges City. After Jiang Chun and Bai Xiaoyan arrived, they immediately met with Song Yuanjia. When Bai Xiaoyan was still curious as to why Jiang Chun was able to contact Song Yuanjia directly, Jiang Chun had already explained the situation. With Lin Baichao here and Song Yuanjia's actions during this period of time, Jiang Chun already had a lot of trust in them. After receiving the information, Song Yuanjia immediately stated that he would mobilize all of Ganges Bank's intelligence personnel to investigate Bai Fengyu and Hikari's whereabouts in the entire northern region. In the guest room, Jiang Chun laid on the bed and exhaled heavily. Looks like your relationship with Ganges Bank is pretty good. Bai Xiaoyan sat beside Jiang Chun. His understanding of Ganges Bank was from the time when Jiang Chun received an invitation to participate in the Chamber of Commerce. I'm already their young master. Looking at Bai Xiaoyan, Jiang Chun still decided to tell the truth. Ever since he joined Tianji Pavilion, Bai Xiaoyan had always been by his side to protect him. Jiang Chun trusted him more than Lin Baichao and Song Yuanjia. The reason why he didn't say it before was because of his relationship with the white-robed immortal king. He didn't want to reveal all of his trump cards. But now that Bai Fengyu and Hikari were missing, Jiang Chun couldn't care so much anymore. What young master? Bai Xiaoyan was shocked. Jiang Chun briefly told Bai Xiaoyan about what happened during this period of time. What? Heaven and Earth Pharmacy and Ganges Bank are actually powers passed down from Tianji sect. Bai Xiaoyan's eyes widened. He walked to Jiang Chun's side with his hands behind his back and said emotionally, Jiang Chun, you've picked up a treasure. I was also very shocked when I first heard it. Jiang Chun shrugged. It's really surprising. Bai Xiaoyan slowly digested this shocking news. In the immortal world, immortal emperors were the peak of cultivation. Even from the birth of the immortal world until now, the number of immortal emperors that appeared could only be counted on one hand. And now, there were no immortal emperors in this world. The strongest ones were the three immortal kings led by the white-robed immortal king and the Xianjun immortal king, even though Emperor Qianji had already fallen. However, both the Heaven and Earth Pharmacy and the Ganges Bank were well-known forces in the entire North region. Ahem, now that you are in charge of the Ganges Bank, our Heavenly Secrets Pavilion will be able to live a good life. Bai Xiaoyan rubbed his chin and coughed lightly. Of course, Jiang Chun laughed. He knew that Bai Xiaoyan would always think for the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. Furthermore, Jiang Chun was now the young master of Tianji sect. By Xinling, this poor sect was no longer in Jiang Chun's eyes. As for his daily expenses, he could easily fork out some immortal jades from the Tianfu Bank. When the time came, he would take good care of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. Not only would the immortal kings be his personal bodyguards, but he would also be able to please Bai Xinling. Maybe she would even give him the best immortal arts. Junior brother, I'm going to return to the sect after a while. Bai Xiaoyan walked around in the room. Why? Jiang Chun frowned slightly. Bai Xiaoyan, this dignified immortal king, was his biggest protective talisman. I'm going to return to the sect and recruit 2 or 3 new disciples. I'll let them take over your job and update the list. Bai Xiaoyan said. He realized that Jiang Chun was no longer the junior brother who had just entered the sect and didn't know anything. Even the forces under him were much stronger than the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. Thank you, senior brother. Jiang Chun suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. The list had long been too lazy to update. If it was delayed any longer, the entire North region would be in chaos. Speaking of which, now that the Kunlun Celestial Mountain and the Ganges Bank have sent people out to inquire about the news, are we just going to sit here and wait for them? Bai Xiaoyan glanced outside. Inside the bank, there were already many people in black leaving one after another. These were the intelligence personnel who had received Song Yuanjia's orders. What else can we do? Jiang Chun was a little helpless. With his current strength, it was impossible to find the exact location of the Black Sect leader. Deduce it. Bai Xiaoyan stepped forward and reached out to hit Jiang Chen's head. He said, "Now is the time for you to use your 10 directions deduction. Senior brother, please go out for a while." Jiang Chen's whole body froze. Ever since Bai Fengyu and Hikari disappeared, Jiang Chen's mind was in a mess, and he almost didn't think about it. Now that he heard Bai Xiaoyan's words, it was as if he was enlightened and reacted. Bai Xiaoyan didn't say much and immediately walked out and closed the door tightly. Jiang Chen sat cross-legged on the bed and mobilized his immortal qi to begin the 10 directions deduction, trying to deduce the location of Bai Fengyu and Hikari, as well as the situation they would face next. But when he was about to deduce Bai Fengyu and Hikari, he found that they were shrouded in a cloud of black fog. No matter how he mobilized his immortal qi, he couldn't determine their approximate location. He could only roughly know that they should be in the north region, but if he wanted to sense it, he couldn't deduce it. Phew! Jiang Chen exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, frowned slightly, and opened his eyes. "Little girl, you can't enter casually." Outside the door, Bai Xiaoyan's voice sounded. He blocked in front of a girl and kept saying to stop her. If the other party wasn't a girl, he would have punched her. "Who is it?" Jiang Chen opened the door somewhat reluctantly. Just when he was worried, someone came knocking on his door. "Jiang Chen, your disciple is in danger, right?" The person standing outside was none other than Xiao Xiao, who had some interactions with Jiang Chen before. Her face was full of worry. When she saw Jiang Chen come out, she immediately asked, "How did you know?" Jiang Chen frowned and asked, "Tell me first, right?" Xiao Xiao continued to ask, "Eldest senior brother, let her come in and talk." Although Jiang Chen didn't know how Xiao Xiao knew, he still said to Bai Xiaoyan and returned to the room. Xiao Xiao nodded to Bai Xiaoyan and hurried in. "You're right, Hikari is indeed in danger." After glancing at her, Jiang Chen sat on the chair and said, he didn't have any good feelings for this woman. If it weren't for his curiosity, he would have driven her out. "Then why are you still sitting here? Go out and find her." Xiao Xiao asked agitatedly. "Little girl, you have to be responsible for your words. This should be the first time we've met. How did you know that Bai Fengyu and Hikari are missing? Quickly tell me the truth, or I'll make you disappear from Eternal River City." Bai Xiaoyan slammed the door shut and walked in front of Xiao Xiao. With a wave of his hand, a white sword appeared and directly pressed against Xiao Xiao's throat. Chapter 17:12. After using his inner force to shake off the black rod, Jiang Chen obtained a note inside. The content of the note was very simple. There was only one line of words. "If you want them to be safe, do as I say." Xiao Xiao stood on her tiptoes and read the contents of the note out loud. "Umph," Jiang Chen sneered. With a slight movement of his immortal power, he directly burned the note into ashes in his palm. "Who exactly is the other party? They even want you to do as they say. Could it be that you offended an immortal venerable or immortal monarch?" Xiao Xiao looked at Jiang Chen. In her immortal world temple, immortal venerables and immortal monarchs were already very strong cultivators. And the first time in her life that she felt the terrifying fluctuations of an immortal king was when Su Qian and immortal king Xian Jun fought in Eternal River City. That kind of majestic immortal power made her feel like an ant. If it's really like what you said, then there's nothing to worry about. Jiang Chen lay back on the bed and said casually, "Could it be that you offended an immortal king?" Xiao Xiao suddenly felt a little afraid. The feeling of powerlessness in the face of an immortal king once again welled up in her heart, making her feel as if her legs were about to go soft. "Just stay by my side obediently." Jiang Chen waved his hand and stopped talking to him. The sect leader of the Black Sect was an existence that was not weaker than the three immortal kings. "All right, if you don't want to say, then I won't ask," Xiao Xiao said coldly. Then she took out a note made out of immortal jade from her clothes and threw it into Jiang Chen's mountain. "This is the 100,000 immortal jade you gave me before. I'm poor, but I'm ambitious even though I'm poor. I never accept charity from others. So, is this the reason why you want to steal the beef?" Jiang Chen did not hesitate and kept it. While they were talking, Bai Xiaoyan returned. Jiang Chen got off the bed and saw him push the door open. "It's really strange. That person's strength is clearly only around the level of a true immortal, but his speed is extremely fast. Even I can't catch up. Bai Xiaoyan frowned. I do have a piece of news here. Jiang Chen pondered for a moment and told the truth about the situation just now. What did he ask you to do? Bai Xiaoyan frowned. I don't know yet, but I think there will be more news coming. Jiang Chen shook his head. Evening. When Song Yunjie came to visit, he brought a piece of news. That was because the people he sent out to investigate had found out about the Citra family. The two elders of this family had been missing for 2 days, and the intelligence agents of the Ganges Bank hadn't been able to find out where the two elders had gone. After hearing the news, Song Yunjie rushed over without hesitation. What a formidable Citra family! Jiang Chun narrowed his eyes, and the immortal power within his body began fluctuating uncontrollably. I think it's better for you to calm down. The Citra family is a subordinate force of the Black Sect's sect master. If they really did something to Bai Fengyu and Hikari, they must have made sufficient preparations. Even if I go with you, we might not be able to save them easily. Sensing that Jiang Chen's emotions were a little off, Bai Xiaoyan pressed his palm on Jiang Chen's shoulder and said in a low voice, "You're right." Jiang Chen took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. Young master, if necessary, I can use the name of the Ganges Bank and the Tianfu Bank to gather the experts in the North region to save your 2 disciples. Song Yunjie knelt on one knee and cupped his fists. I don't need you to do anything for now. Jiang Chen pondered for a moment and continued, I need to return to the Kunlun Celestial Mountain. If you receive any news, immediately send someone to report to me. If I'm not around, tell the 6th or 9th Mountain Lord. Even the 1st Mountain Lord is fine. Understood, young master. Song Yunjie stood up and said respectfully, Let's go, eldest senior brother. There's no time to lose. Jiang Chun prepared to leave. The Ganges Bank was only suitable for gathering information. If he really wanted to go to the Citra family, Song Yunjie would not be of much help. Moreover, the experts in the bank were too varied. There might even be people from the Black Sect's sect master subsect. When it came to Bai Fengyu and Hikari's safety, Jiang Chun would not take the risk. What about me? In a moment of desperation, Xiao Xiao grabbed Jiang Chen's arm. If you want to follow, then follow. If you want to stay here, then stay here. Jiang Chun was in a hurry to return to the Kunlun Celestial Mountain to tell Xian Yu and Wei Yu about the situation. He had no time to consider her. I'll go with you. Xiao Zhao's gaze was firm. Jiang Chen did not say anything and directly pulled her into his arms. With her cultivation of the 6th stage of the true immortal realm, it would take at least half a day to travel from the Ganges Bank to the Kunlun Celestial Mountain. Jiang Chun could not wait and did not want to see her in danger on the way, so he simply took her with him. Feeling the soft waist of the woman in his arms and the faint fragrance coming from her, Jiang Chun was in a daze. He hurriedly cleared his throat, and his eyes became clear. Shopkeeper Song, remember what I said. Don't delay. Jiang Chen pushed open the door and hugged Xiao Xiao tightly. As soon as he finished speaking, he used the 10,000 transformations heavenly lamp, and his figure suddenly disappeared on the spot, not even leaving behind an afterimage. Behind him, Bai Xiaoyan also urged the immortal power in her body to follow closely. Although her speed was far slower than Jiang Chen's, she could still barely keep up. What a fast speed! Seeing Jiang Chen disappear in an instant, Song Yunjie could not help but sigh. Kunlun Celestial Mountain. Jiang Chen casually left Xiao Xiao at the peak of the 9th mountain and immediately went to Xian Yu's boudoir to tell her the news. Xian Yu, I have news. You came back just in time. The information hall found out. Jiang Chen entered the door just as Xian Yu was about to come out. The two of them almost bumped into each other and spoke at the same time. Tell me, Jiang Chen said. Xian Yu just sent news that they have found some clues. When Bai Fengyu and Hikari were kidnapped and left the mountain, Hikari scattered many elixirs along the way. However, the number of elixirs was limited, so they only followed them for a few hundred miles, Xian Yu said after taking 2 steps back. Then this news is as good as not having any news. Jiang Chen shook his head slightly. No. Do you know where those few hundred miles lead to? Xian Yu reached out and covered Jiang Chen's mouth. She continued, "After a few hundred miles and another 1,000 miles or so, you'll reach the Citra clan. According to the information obtained by the Ganges Bank, 2 elders of the Citra family have disappeared. Their whereabouts are unknown. I also suspect this family has received an order from the headmaster of the Black School. It's just like what the Black Cloud sect did to me at the sex meeting." Jiang Chen kept smiling. His look was profound, with a hint of something else. Chapter 1713. Xian Yu retracted her hand. "If that's the case, we can basically confirm that it's the Citra family's doing." Jiang Chen sneered, and his aura instantly became fierce. "Don't be agitated." Xian Yu was liked by Xiaoyan. When she felt that Jiang Chen's emotions were getting out of control, she immediately pressed down on his hand and said in a low voice, "If you rush over rashly, you might fall into their trap. Not only will you not be able to save them, you might even lose your life. Inform Xian Yu to come here." Jiang Chen took a deep breath and walked towards the main hall. Xian Yu stood there in a daze. She had not seen Jiang Chen so resolute in his actions for a long time. Ever since he ascended to the immortal world, Jiang Chen had always been like a child. "That's my young master," Xian Yu could not help but say as she watched Jiang Chen walk into the main hall. Not long after, Xian Yu and a few elders of the 6th mountain rushed over. In the main hall, Hua Fu and Jiang Chen stood in a corner, looking as if they had done something wrong. When Jiang Chen left the Kunlun Celestial Mountain for the Eternal River City, the 2 of them had been searching but did not find any useful clues. "Mountain Lord Xian Yu, I already know about the situation that your 6th mountain has investigated. I also have a new piece of news here. We can roughly target the Citra family. The purpose of calling you here today is to consider how to rescue Bai Fengyu and Hikari from this family." Jiang Chen looked at the group of people sitting in the main hall and said indifferently, "What do you think?" Xian Yu did not look at Jiang Chen. She thought that Jiang Chen was now blinded by hatred. "I think we should send someone to the Citra family to investigate. It's best if we can determine the current situation of Bai Fengyu and Hikari and where they are being held. Then we can take action." Xian Yu said after some consideration, "I have the same idea as you. Who should we send?" Xian Yu nodded lightly. "I'll go," Jiang Chen said without hesitation. "You can't. They can't wait for you to show up. If you go to the Citra family, no one can guarantee your safety." Mystic Moon and Wei Yu immediately shook their heads in denial. "Let's go." Jiang Yuan, who had been silent all this while, took the initiative to speak. "Bai Fengyu and Hikari were robbed because of our carelessness. We should be the ones to bear the consequences. Moreover, the Hikari family doesn't know us. It would be more convenient for us to investigate than anyone else in Kunlun Immortal Mountain." Hua Fu walked in front of Jiang Chen and said while gazing at him, "All right." Jiang Chen did not refuse. Hua Fu and Jiang Yuan were absolutely loyal to him. Moreover, they were both immortal monarchs. Even if they couldn't defeat the sect leader of the Black Sect, they would still be able to escape. Emperor Qian Ji must have placed a seal on them to prevent them from doing evil in the immortal world. Perhaps the seal would loosen at the critical moment. At that time, even the sect leader of the Black Sect would have to think twice before joining forces with the cultivation of the 5th-tier Celestial King. After getting Jiang Chen's permission, Hua Fu and Jiang Yuan immediately left. Mystic Moon continued to discuss countermeasures with Wei Yu and told the results to Qing Mu and several elders of the 6th mountain. Jiang Chen, on the other hand, returned to Mystic Moon's boudoir. He thought of a person. Perhaps this person knew something about the situation. With a flip of his palm, Jiang Chen took out a jade bottle from his storage ring. He reached out and wiped off the immortal seal on the mouth of the bottle. A wisp of soul flew out of it and rushed toward the door, trying to escape. But when it was about to leave the door, it slammed into the door. "Don't even think about getting out of here." Jiang Chen looked coldly at the soul and said, "Jiang Chen, let me out. I promise I won't do anything to you in the future." Sun Lian's eyes were filled with fear. He was only a soul, and his strength was only at the level of a true immortal. He was no match for Jiang Chen. "Tell me everything you know about the Citra family." Jiang Chen sat on the bed and said, I don't know anything. Sun Lian shook his head vigorously. Don't tell me. Then you have no value. Flames rose from Jiang Qin's fingers and turned into a short knife with crimson immortal power flowing around it. Sect leader Sun Lian, from now on, you will disappear from the immortal realm. As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Qin gently swung his hand, and the short knife shot directly towards Sun Lian. Sun Lian was shocked when he saw the tip of the flaming knife gradually enlarging in his eyes. He hurriedly dodged to the side, but Jiang Qin's immortal power had already locked onto him. No matter how he tried to escape, the short knife was always behind him, and its speed was getting faster and faster. It was about to pierce his back. Wait, I'll talk. Seeing that he could not escape, Sun Lian stopped, raised his hands above his head, and shouted in a low voice. Chi! The short knife stopped less than a fist away from his chest. Sun Lian panted heavily. He knew in his heart that once he was stabbed by the short knife, his soul would instantly dissipate. His entire body would also vanish into thin air in the immortal realm, and there would be no chance for him to be resurrected. Oh, enlightened? Jiang Qin smiled and waved his hand, dissipating the short knife. Sun Lian panted heavily. Even his soul floating in midair had become a little fainter due to fear. Tell me about the Citra family and the sect leader of the Black Sect. Tell me honestly, and I can let you live. Otherwise, no one can save you. Looking at him, Jiang Qin continued, the place you are at is Kunlun Immortal Mountain. Even the 3 great immortal kings do not dare to rashly provoke it. Do you think your sect leader will barge in here for you? Ask away. I'll tell you everything I know. Jiang Qin's words completely chilled his heart. He knew very well that the Black Cloud sect was said to be a subsect of the Black Sect, but in fact, the sect leader had never taken care of it. The few times he had contacted them were all to give them orders, not to mention coming here to save him. Even when the Black Cloud sect was besieged and destroyed by the 9 mountain lords, he did not make a move. I've already told you my question, Jiang Qin said lightly. I don't know much about the Citra family, and I don't know that they are the same as our Black Cloud sect, a force under the sect leader. As for the sect leader, I haven't even seen his face. In the past, every time he came to the sect, it was just a soul doppelganger hidden in a black fog and a black robe. Sun Lian did not dare to dawdle, and immediately told him everything he knew. That's all. Jiang Qin frowned. These words were as worthless as not saying anything. Chapter 17:14. That's all we know. We know very little about the sect master. Sun Lian nodded vigorously. What a waste of time. Jiang Qin shook his head and stretched out his hand. A fierce suction force burst out. Sun Lian's soul flew towards Jiang Qin. He struggled violently, but to no avail. He could only shout loudly, Jiang Qin, I've already told you everything I know. Please let me live. Jiang Qin didn't even bother to say a word and directly sealed him back into the jade bottle. Now, Sun Lian had completely lost his usefulness. Jiang Qin could even kill him immediately. However, this was the sect master of the Black Cloud sect. If he was left alive, he might be of some use in the future. Once again, he sealed the mouth of the bottle with immortal power. Jiang Qin casually threw it back into the storage ring. For people like Sun Lian, he had to torture him. As the sect master of the Black Sect, how could he not know a little about the situation of the Black Sect? If this were to be spread out, no one would believe it. Bang! The door of the boudoir was pushed open. Jiang Qin shivered in fright. Xiao Xiao angrily walked in front of Jiang Qin and pointed at Jiang Qin's nose and asked, Why are you sitting here when you're back? Don't you want to think of a way to save Ikari? Jiang Qin was somewhat helpless, but facing a woman, he couldn't get angry. I'm thinking of a way. This is not something that can be done overnight. What you have to do is to stay here obediently and don't bring me trouble. If Ikari is in any danger, I won't let you off. Xiao Xiao stomped her feet and turned to walk outside. Damn, she's my disciple, not your disciple. Why are you in such a hurry? Watching her leave the room, Jiang Qin couldn't help but ridicule. When Xiao Xiao went out, she bumped into Xianyu who came in. Seeing the girl who came out angrily, Yu couldn't help but take a few more glances. This look of being bullied. This look of being full of grievances. Isn't it exactly the same as her reaction after being humiliated by Jiangchen? What's wrong with you? Yu stopped her and asked with concern. Nothing. Xiao Xiao shook her head. She did not know Yu at all. She thought that Yu was just an ordinary disciple of Kunlun, Celestial Mountain, so she did not say anything. Jiangchen. Even though Xiao Xiao didn't say it out loud, Yu could read the hidden meaning behind her words. Ah, what's wrong? Jiangchen pushed open the door and watched Xiao Xiao walk down the mountain. He then pulled Mystic Moon's hand and walked into the room. I just asked Black Cloud sect Master Sun Lian. He doesn't know much about the Black Sect and the Citra family. Tell me first, did you make things difficult for that girl just now in my room? Yu looked at Jiangchen angrily. She could tolerate Jiangchen having other women, but she could not tolerate Jiangchen having fun with other women right under her nose. Moreover, it was in her room. You didn't make things difficult for her, right? Jiangchen touched his hair. However, when he thought about his tone toward Xiao Xiao just now, he smiled and said, it was indeed a little difficult. The main thing is that this girl doesn't know what's good for her. However, it won't happen again in the future. I think you're just testing my limits. Yu was going crazy. She did not expect Jiangchen to admit it. What's wrong with me? I didn't do anything. Seeing that Yu was angry, Jiangchen immediately retreated. At the same time, he begged loudly, did you misunderstand something? If I know what kind of person you are, how could I misunderstand you? Yu snorted coldly. Heroine, I think we should calm down. Jiangchen was worried that Yu would attack him. A strike from a celestial monarch would definitely turn him into dust. As the saying goes, a wise man submits to circumstances. Jiangchen didn't know what was wrong with Yu, but he didn't have the nerve to provoke her. So, he found a chance and dashed out of the door. It would be better to stay outside than to stay inside. Pa! Who would have thought that just as Jiangchen was about to reach Yu's side, he was pulled down by her. Come, follow me into the house. Yu smiled sweetly at Jiangchen and pulled him into the room. Jiangchen was thrown onto the bed like a little chick. Little Yu, I know that you definitely want to be intimate with me. However, this is a critical moment. The most important thing now is to find Fengyu and Hikari. As for other things, we can do it after these two things are over. Lying on the bed, Jiangchen revealed a sly smile. His eyes scanned Yu's body. Go back to where it's cool. Yu slapped Jiangchen's face. It was a light slap. There was no resentment. There was only coquettishness. Come here. Jiangchen grabbed her arm and pulled her into his embrace. Jiangchen, I'm warning you. I allow you to flirt outside, but you can't bring them to my room. You're too daring. How dare you do that kind of thing in my room? Yu said with some dissatisfaction as she laid in Jiangchen's embrace. You must have misunderstood. Upon hearing this, Jiangchen immediately understood what was going on. Shaking his head, he said with a smile, she came here to ask me why I didn't save Hikari. I just gave her some excuses, and she became unhappy. Really? Yu stared at Jiangchen with her beautiful big eyes. I swear on my life that it's definitely like that. What kind of person do you think I am? Jiangchen raised his finger and said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. You've always been that kind of person. After receiving Jiangchen's affirmation, Yu lay in Jiangchen's embrace, satisfied. A week passed. Jiangchen received news from the 9th and 6th mountains almost every day. He also received news from the Ganges Bank's information hall. As the news increased, he also gained a better understanding of the Citra family. This family had a high status and power in the western part of the North region. Because they had a bank and medicine hall business, even some sects with immortal lords and quasi-immortal kings did not dare to offend them. The annual auction held by the Citra family was also one of the biggest events in the western part. A few days later, Huafu and Jiang Yuan returned. As soon as they returned, they immediately found Jiangchen and told him everything they had found out. Jiangchen stood on the peak of the 9th mountain with his hands behind his back. He frowned and asked, still no news about Fengyu and Hikari? Yes, the Citra family is very secretive about this matter. If we continue to investigate, we will definitely be exposed. However, one thing is certain. Yu and Hikari definitely have something to do with them. The auction held by their family will be in 3 days. Zhang Yuan walked to Jiang Chun and lowered his head as he spoke. Auction? Jiang Chun showed a cold smile. Let's go and have a look at the Citra's auction. What's it like? Chapter 1715. 3 days later, Jiang Chun, Zhang Yuan, and Huafu appeared in the western part of the northern region. Compared to the eastern part, the western part was more desolate. They could only see a few scattered towns as they hurried along. When they arrived at the city where the Citra family was located, Jiang Chun and the other two went straight to the auction without resting. You can't enter without an invitation, the guard at the door said coldly when he saw the 3 unfamiliar faces. Open your eyes wide and take a look. Zhang Yuan was already angry because of his carelessness, which led to Bai Fengyu and Hikari's capture. Now that he saw that even a guard from a small family dared to stop him, he immediately released his immortal force. The fluctuation of an immortal monarch's aura blew the guard away. Even the door frame of the auction house was on the verge of collapsing and almost fell down. Who dares to cause trouble here? Such a strong fluctuation of aura swept out and drew the attention of many people inside from the auction stage to the door. In less than a breath's time, several small teams of guards dashed over and surrounded Jiang Chun and his 2 companions. What a snob! Zhang Yuan spat. Jiang Chun didn't say anything. After changing his appearance, these guards with immortal realm cultivation didn't have the strength to discover that something was wrong with him. At the very least, they had to be immortal monarchs to be able to detect that Jiang Chun had changed his appearance. I'm the hall master of the Citra family's guard hall. May I ask why the 3 of you are angry? A middle-aged man with whiskers noticed Jiang Yuan and Huafu weren't weak, so he walked out of the guards with a smile. He bowed to Jiang Chun, who was standing in the middle, and asked, My name is Shisheng. May I know your name, sir? I'm your father. Before Jiang Chun could speak, Zhang Yuan took a step forward and shouted loudly. Shisheng's expression turned ugly when he heard this. Although he was only a 3rd-stage immortal realm cultivator and wasn't ranked high in the immortal realm, he was at least the hall master of the Citra family's guard hall. Anyone in the western part of the northern region would have to give him some face and call him hall master Shi. Now that he had become someone else's son in front of so many of his subordinates, he naturally felt embarrassed. However, since Zhang Yuan and Huafu were both immortal monarchs, Shisheng could only grit his teeth and swallow his resentment. Hall Master, they've gone too far. Many experts who have a good relationship with our Citra family have come to this auction. Why don't we let them take action together? A guard whispered to Shisheng. Don't be rash. This person is only a heavenly immortal, and yet he has 2 immortal monarchs protecting him. His identity is definitely extraordinary. Go inform the clan leader and the elders first. Shisheng shook his head. Although the Citra clan had some status in the west, they weren't famous in the entire northern region or the immortal world. Understood. We'll go now. The guard agreed and hurriedly ran out. Sirs, this is our Citra family's auction. If you're here to participate, we welcome you with open arms. However, if you're here to cause trouble, please conduct yourselves with dignity. Although Shisheng was a little scared in his own territory, especially in front of many people who were participating in the auction and his subordinates' guards, he still mustered up his courage to speak. It's your subordinate's dog who's blocking our way. Jiang Chun looked at the guard standing at the door and said with a smile, Get over here. Shisheng glanced at the guard and said loudly. The guard lowered his head and trotted over. Sirs, he's just a lowly guard who has eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Please don't be calculative with him. I can provide you with a box and let you have priority in choosing all the auction items. What do you think? Shisheng took a step forward and blocked the guard. He cupped his hands and asked Jiang Chun, Are you teaching me how to do things? Jiang Chun tilted his head and glanced at him. Of course not. How would I dare to teach you how to do things? Shisheng trembled in fear. Stand up and look at me when you speak. Jiang Chun looked at the guard who was almost kneeling on the ground and said indifferently. The guard slowly stood up. Slap. Jiang Chen didn't hesitate at all. He waved his hand and slapped him across the face. This is a slap for intercepting him without asking for the reason, Jiang Chen said, looking at him. If he'd been as strong as he was in the world of immortals, the Hydra family would have been wiped out of existence in an instant if they dared to kidnap someone close to him. Slap. This slap is for wanting to hit you. Hua Fu took a step forward, waving her slender jade-like hand to slap him, venting all the anger in her heart on the guard's face. Slap. Another slap came. Jiang Yuan didn't say anything. He just stood there and no one dared to make a sound. After 3 consecutive slaps, the guard's face was swollen like a pig's head. Blood flowed from his mouth and nostrils, and his eyes were bloodshot. Hurry and take him away, Shisheng whispered to his trusted aide beside him. The two of them immediately stepped forward and dragged the beaten guard away. Sir, Immortal Kings, I see that your anger has subsided. Let's go in and participate in the auction. Shisheng rubbed his hands and asked tentatively. In the future, when you see me and my subordinates, call me sir. Otherwise, I'll beat you every time I see you. Jiang Chen walked to his side and patted his face. Remember, with Jiang Yuan and Hua Fu, the 2 immortal lords, Shisheng stood motionless and didn't dare to speak carelessly. Under the watchful eyes of all the guards, Jiang Chen led the 2 into the auction. Many people who were participating in the auction inside roughly knew what was going on outside. They all turned to look. When they saw Jiang Chen's completely unfamiliar face, they all guessed that he was the young master of some clan or sect in the northern region. He actually had 2 immortal lords with such high cultivation as his followers. Shisheng didn't dare hesitate. He hurried to run in and took Jiang Chen and the other 2 to a private room. He also served them a lot of food and drinks. He didn't wipe the sweat off his face until he had served them well. Then he walked backwards out of the private room. It seems that the Citra clan isn't as strong as we thought. With our current cultivation, we can make them keep quiet out of fear, Hua Fu said disdainfully as she sat in the private room, crossing her slender white legs. Save it. Immortal lords are considered very strong in the current immortal realm. Jiang Yuan pursed his lips and looked toward the auction stage. When we were in the eastern region, we met many quasi-immortal kings. Hua Fu was a little surprised. She had never been interested in cultivation. The reason she could reach the 5th level of the immortal king realm and above was not only because of her talent and the help of Emperor Qianji, but also because of the power of the Flame Phoenix tribe's bloodline. Chapter 1716. I'm afraid that group of quasi-immortal kings only have the cultivation of 6th or 7th level immortal monarchs. Their foundation is unstable, and I don't know how they got there. Aren't they ashamed to call themselves quasi-immortal kings? Jiang Yuan sneered. While they were talking, the auction hall had returned to normal. The guard also reported the news to the 2nd elder of the Citra family. What? How dare they make trouble at the auction of the Citra family? The 2nd elder Shiyun slammed the table and stood up abruptly. His eyes were fierce, and his voice shook the hall. 2nd elder, that guy is protected by 2 immortal monarchs. The guard had seen Jiang Chen's ruthlessness and could not help but shiver at the thought of it. What cultivation level are the immortal monarchs? The 2nd elder glanced sideways. I can't sense it. The guard shook his head. He was only an immortal, so he could only sense that the other party's aura was very powerful. Take me to have a look. I want to know which family or sect's young master dares to make trouble at the auction of the Citra family. Our family doesn't seem to have offended any forces. The 2nd elder put his hands behind his back and walked out of the hall. He kept thinking, but he could not figure out why someone would make trouble at their place. In the auction hall, under the guard's lead, Shiyun saw Jiang Chen. He realized that he had never seen this young man before. You guys keep an eye on him. It's best if you can find out where he came from. If he dares to make trouble in the family again, you must inform me immediately. After watching for a while, Shiyun gave up the idea of going forward. He did not dare to make any moves before he knew the background of the other party. Yes, 2nd elder. The guards hurriedly nodded in agreement. As the auction items were sold, Jiang Chun took a fancy to something. It was a tattered piece of paper that looked like it was thousands of years old. There were many lines on it, which faintly revealed some mystery. Jiang Chun frowned slightly. This piece of paper was similar to the map that Emperor Qianji had given him. Although he didn't know if it was the same thing as the map in his hand, Jiang Chun wouldn't miss it. After all, this map might record the whereabouts of his mother. 60 million immortal jades. Hearing someone bid 50 million, Jiang Chun didn't even think about it and directly said, "What do you want that for?" Fire Lotus was a little confused. Monarch Qianji gave me a map. I think it's similar to the one in the auction, so I'm going to take it. Jiang Chun didn't hide anything. Do you have money? Fire Lotus asked. He's now the young master of the Heavenly Province Bank. The thing he doesn't lack the least is immortal jade. Zhang Yuan couldn't help but laugh. I reckon that even if all the people here added together, they wouldn't have as much money as he does. 70 million. Not long after Jiang Chun made his bid, another voice rang out from one of the private rooms. 300 million immortal jade. Another voice rang out from Jiang Chun's room. Wow! As soon as the voice rang out, an uproar broke out in the auction hall. 300 million immortal jade was a huge sum that even some sects couldn't take out. Now, this amount of money was going to be used to buy a piece of paper. 300 million immortal jade? Are you sure? Even the auctioneer of the Citra family was struck dumb by Jiang Chun's bid. He looked towards the private room and asked tentatively, "Yes, my lord, 300 million immortal jade. Are you sure?" "I'm sure. If anyone dares to compete with me, I'll continue to bid," Jiang Chun said in a deep voice. Instantly, the auction hall became even more restless. They were all guessing who was sitting in the private room. How could he have such great financial resources and casually bid such an amount of immortal jade that they couldn't gather even if they emptied their family's savings? At the entrance of the auction hall, Qian was looking at the situation inside. When he learned that the troublemaker and the person who bid 300 million immortal jade were the same person, his expression became complicated. He felt that this person ought to be the young master of some great sect or clan in the Northern Territory. This person had a strange temper, yet possessed great wealth. According to his experience, this sort of person was usually brainless, and so long as he used a slight trick, he would be able to cheat out all the immortal jades in his pockets. Thinking of this, a new idea appeared in Shiyun's mind. "You!" Shiyun pointed at a guard standing not far away, waved to him, and said, "Go and inform the two of them immediately. Don't investigate him anymore. After the auction is over, invite him to my place." "Yes, second elder." The guard quickly nodded and chased after him. The auction was over. When Jiang Chun walked out of the private room, there were people blocking his way. "What? Are you looking for trouble?" Jiang Chun glanced at them and asked indifferently. Beside him, Huafu and Zhang Yuan took a step forward and released their immortal monarch aura. Many people standing in the auction hall were so frightened that they didn't dare to move. The guards of the Citra family rushed toward the private room as if they were facing a great enemy. "Sir, you've misunderstood. I'm here on Second Elder's orders to wait for you." Second Elder said to invite you to his place after the auction is over. The disciple cupped his hands and bowed to Jiang Chun several times before speaking. "The second elder of your Citra family?" Jiang Chun was a little surprised, not understanding what was going on. "Why?" Zhang Yuan stepped forward and asked. "I just want to get to know him," the disciple said again. "Since he's the second elder of your Citra family, out of courtesy, I should still meet him. Lead the way." Jiang Chun pondered for a while and agreed. Anyway, with Huafu and Zhang Yuan by his side, even if an immortal king attacked, they could escort him away. The disciple quickly led the way. In the auction hall, whether it was the people who came to participate in the auction or the people of the Citra family, everyone's eyes followed Jiang Chun's movements. They were all guessing the identity of this young man. Not only did he have the protection of an immortal monarch, but he even spent hundreds of millions of immortal jade. With this kind of spending, he was probably a young master with a top strength in the immortal world. Under the disciples' lead, Jiang Chun went around to the back of the auction hall and arrived at a very luxurious manor. As soon as he entered, he saw many guards patrolling back and forth. There were also maids running around with things in hand. "The three of you this way, please." The disciple led the three to the left side of the manor and pointed at the main hall in front. "Haha, fellow Taoists, I've been looking forward to seeing you." Hearing the voice outside, Xian came out laughing. When she walked down the stairs, she had already extended her hand to Jiang Chun. Chapter 1717. If I remember correctly, we didn't know each other before, right? Jiang Chun looked at him and smiled. It doesn't matter whether we knew each other before or not. From now on, we are friends. Xian stepped forward, grabbed Jiang Chun's arm, and led him into the hall. However, since his cultivation wasn't at the Immortal Lord realm, he didn't know that Jiang Chun had disguised himself. Zhang Yuan and Hua Fu glanced at each other and followed after him. In the hall, Shiyun had already prepared hot tea. "Young friend, this must be your first time here. Why don't you stay here for a few days? I'll send someone to show you around." When you were at the auction, Shisheng had promised you that you could have the first look at all the auction items. "If you want anything, just tell me. I'll sell it to you at a low price. Take it as making friends." Shiyun raised the teacup and gestured to Jiang Chun. "I wonder what benefits Second Elder wants from me?" Jiang Chun drank the tea in one gulp, put the cup on the table, and asked coldly. Shiyun's hand froze in midair. He did not expect Jiang Chun to be so disrespectful to him. "Of course not." Shiyun's face twitched a few times, and then he laughed. "Previously, the guards of our Citra family intercepted you. As an elder, I naturally have to apologize on his behalf. I accept your apology. If there's nothing else, we'll take our leave." Jiang Chun did not have the time to waste with Xian. He had just taken the scrap of paper and had to go back to compare it with the one given to him by Emperor Qinji. Xian's face darkened. As the second elder of the Citra family, he was the most respected person in the family, except for the patriarch and the first elder. Even in the entire North region, everyone had to show him some respect. However, Jiang Chun had offended him time and time again. He didn't give him any face at all. Damn it. If I were an immortal king, they wouldn't dare to be so rash. Xian gritted her teeth and said in a low voice. After venting the anger in her heart, she raised her head and said with a smile, "Hey, wait, little friend, please stay." "Oh, is there anything else?" Jiang Chun stopped and asked. "Young friend, there are many more precious items than the one you bought at the auction of our Sidera family. If you want, I can let you choose. If you sincerely want it, I can sell it to you at a low price. In the future, all the items of our Sidera family will be displayed to you first." Xian quickly walked in front of Jiang Chun and repeated what she had said before. He wasn't going to let this idiot leave just like that. If he could call out a price of 300 million celestial jade for something that was worth tens of millions of celestial jade, then wouldn't he be making a huge profit in the future? All right. Jiang Chun didn't want to make things too stiff with him. After all, he still needed to investigate the whereabouts of Bai Fengyu and Hikari from his family. Moreover, it was good to be able to gain some benefits. If he bought it at a low price and sold it at a high price, he might be able to get tens of millions of celestial jade. Then, little friend, why don't I arrange a few guest rooms for you to rest? The auction will continue for 3 days. Xian smiled when she heard Jiang Chun agree. "Take me there." Jiang Chun waved his hand and said, "All right, please come with me. I'll take you to the warehouse to have a look." A smile immediately appeared on Shiyun's face, as if she could see a lot of celestial jade flowing into her hands. After asking Hua Fu and Zhang Yuan to wait here, Jiang Chun left the hall with Xiyun. Not far from the back of the hall was the temporary storage area for all the auction items. Outside, there were countless disciples of the Citra family standing guard, as well as several guard squads patrolling back and forth. The total value of the auction items here was about 5 billion celestial jade. If anything were to happen to them, their Sidera family simply couldn't bear the responsibility. "Please, little friend." When they reached the door, Xian nodded to the family disciple next to her and opened the door of the warehouse. After Jiang Chun followed her in, he saw that the wooden shelves inside were densely packed with auction items. Little friend, take a look and choose whatever you like. Tell me what you like, and I'll sell it to you at the lowest price. Xian pointed at the items inside and said loudly. Jiangchen didn't reply. Instead, he walked in directly. After looking around, he didn't find anything too good. Instead, there were some low-level celestial arts and cultivation methods that would be of great help to Hikari's cultivation. Jiangchen sorted them out and brought them to Xian. These things 5 billion celestial jade will do. Xian glanced at them and said directly. She clearly remembered the price of these celestial arts and cultivation methods. The base price should be about 500 million celestial jade. Even if they were to be auctioned, the highest price would not exceed 1 billion. But she thought that since Jiangchun was rich and a young man who hadn't seen much of the world, he couldn't accurately estimate the price of these celestial arts. Therefore, she called out a price that was not very high. 5 billion? Jiangchun raised his eyebrows and looked at her. Of course, if little friend really wants them, you can take them away with 1 billion. But if the price is lower, not only will we not make any money, we will even lose money. Xian pretended to be very embarrassed and said to Jiangchun, Little friend, our Hydra family still needs to survive. I think second elder is treating me like a fool. Jiangchun sneered. He originally thought that this person was not bad, but now it seemed that he had taken a fancy to his extravagant spending at the auction and wanted to cheat him of his money. But what Xian didn't expect was that Jiangchun was not as ignorant of the world as she thought. Moreover, when it came to swindling, he was a grandmaster figure. What do you mean? Xian's heart sank, and her expression was a little awkward, but she still forced herself to ask. Nothing, I'm not interested in these things. Elder Xian, if there's nothing else, I'll go back first. Jiangchun sighed faintly. Before figuring out the whereabouts of Bai, Fengyu, and Hikari, Jiangchun didn't want to fall out with the Hydra family. Wait, little friend, our prices are negotiable. If you think 1 billion is too low, then 3 billion is fine too. Xian chased after Jiangchun from the warehouse and waved her hand at his back. Returning to the main hall, Jiangchun left the Hydra family with Jiang Yuan and Huofu. After finding an inn near the auction to stay, the three of them began to plan how to inquire about information and how to rescue the two people. According to the plan, Jiang Yuan and Huofu left separately to continue investigating the Citra family's territory. As for Jiangchun, he stayed in the hostel alone, waiting to attend the auction and get in touch with the Citra family's people. Chapter 1718. After offending Jiangchun before, Xian did not continue to prepare to get money from Jiangchun. Instead, as before, he sent guards to inquire about Jiangchun, to find out where this guy came from and what kind of power was behind him. This investigation was not important. He found out that the place where Jiangchun and the other two came from was Kunlun Mountain in the northern region. Jiangchun is also a disciple of Kunlun Mountain. Sitting in the main hall, Xian looked at the other elders sitting in the hall and asked with a frown, Does this extravagant guy have anything to do with Jiangchun? Second brother, no matter whether he has anything to do with Jiangchun or not, at least he's a member of Kunlun Mountain. It's better to kidnap him directly and ask him about Jiangchun's situation. We have to solve this matter quickly, otherwise it's very likely that we'll end up like the Black Cloud sect. An elder could not help but say loudly, Sixth brother is right. Second elder, you have to think of a way. Now that the patriarch and the first elder are not in the family, you have to make the decision for them. Yes, second elder. In the main hall, the other elders all said to Xian. Kidnap him? Xian asked, but since this guy is a member of Kunlun Mountain, how can he have so many celestial jades and the protection of two immortal monarchs? Is he a descendant of a mountain master? No matter what his identity is, don't forget that if you don't do what the sect master asked you to do, you should know the consequences. The elder who spoke first swung his sleeves and said loudly, Well, then get ready to take action against him. Xian narrowed his eyes. Of course, he knew what this meant. Hearing Xian's words, another elder immediately shouted to the outside of the main hall, Spread the news and let the immortal monarchs of the family gather. Before the auction ends today, catch that guy. We can't let him escape. Where are the two immortal monarchs protecting him? Someone asked worriedly. There's no need to be on guard at all. For some reason, the two immortal monarchs left yesterday. Now, only that kid is staying in the inn. Even today's auction was attended by him. Not to mention our immortal venerables. We can't even deal with a celestial immortal. Don't talk nonsense. Let's act immediately. Shi Yun waved her hand and said. While Jiang Chun was participating in the auction, nearly 10 immortal venerables suddenly gathered outside the auction hall. The moment they appeared, Jiang Chun had already sensed their chi fluctuations. Everyone, don't panic. Our Satila family has dispatched immortal venerables to protect everyone's safety. Not only Jiang Chun, but many people in the auction hall also noticed. They all stood up and looked outside. The auctioneer had no choice but to explain loudly. After his explanation, the auction finally quieted down. He couldn't know their specific location or what they would encounter in the future. However, now that he was inside the Satila family, he would definitely be closer to them. That way, the effect of the deduction would be more obvious. Jiang Chun sat cross-legged on the wooden bed. A circle of boundaries spread out from his body to block out the noise in the dungeon. Then he began to deduce. Time passed by minute. About an hour later, Jiang Chun suddenly opened his eyes and immediately looked in the southwest direction. In the deduction, Jiang Chun clearly knew that Bai Fengyu and Hikari were not far southwest of him. If he used the all-directional heavenly lamp, he would be able to reach them in less than a breath. However, the only problem was, although he could deduce their approximate location, the two were still abnormally blurry, as if they were sealed by some kind of boundary. He couldn't sense their current situation at all. Phew! Jiang Chun took a deep breath, and the expression on his face relaxed. Since he could deduce their location, it meant that they were not in danger now. He just had to rescue them. However, what he had to do now was to let the Satila family have a taste of what they deserved. Chapter 1719. Second Elder. He has been sent to the dungeon by us. Shi Sheng strode into the hall, cupped his hands, and shouted to Shi Yun proudly. Well done. Very spirited. Shi Yun also replied loudly. Second Elder, what if the two immortal monarchs come back? What should we do? After receiving the praise, Shi Sheng was a little worried. He had seen with his own eyes how hot-tempered the two immortal monarchs were. If they suddenly came back here, with the combined strength of the two immortal monarchs, wouldn't the sky be turned upside down? Who knows that he is in our hands? Shi Yun touched the armrest of the chair and laughed. Then, according to Second Elder, what should we do next? Shi Sheng took a step forward. He knew that if this matter could be handled well, his position in the family would be greatly improved, and he might even become a new elder. First, lock him up for 2 days and let him suffer in the dungeon. Then, you go and interrogate him and ask him where Jiang Chun is now and what are his weaknesses. Shi Sheng, you have been the hall master of the Guardian Hall for nearly 100 years. Back then, I only took 50 years to climb from hall master to elder. Do you understand what I am saying? Shi Yun waved his hand and asked with a smile when Shi Sheng walked in front of him. I understand, of course I understand. Shi Sheng was so excited that he trembled and quickly nodded in agreement. Since Shi Sheng had already said so, if he still didn't understand, he would be no different from a stupid pig. After hearing Shi Yun's words, the smile on Shi Sheng's face was as bright as a chrysanthemum flower. He cupped his hands and bowed to the former, and then strode out of the hall. In the dungeon, Jiang Chun sat on the ground and continued to use the Shifang deduction to sense the location of Bai Fengyu and Hikari. As for the others who were locked up here, when they sensed that Jiang Chun's immortal force was constantly spreading out, they couldn't help but shake their heads and laugh. Some of them had been locked up here for decades, some for hundreds of years, and some even for thousands of years. They had used all the methods they could think of countless times. But in the end, they still couldn't escape from this place. In the end, everyone gave up on the idea of leaving and accepted the fact that they would have to live in the dark and damp dungeon for a long time. Little brother, if you can get out, please take us with you. When they noticed that Jiang Chun's immortal power was continuously spreading outwards, someone said with a smile, That's right. If you can save us, we'll follow your lead in the future. The first person said, followed by the second and third. Of course, they did not covet Jiangchun. They were just looking for some fun in their boring days. 2 days later, they brought Jiangchun out of the dungeon. At the same time, Huafu and Jiangchun returned to the town. After failing to find Jiangchun in the inn, they guessed that he might have entered the Citra family. In the dungeon of the manor, Jiangchun was brought out by Shisheng and the others. When the others saw this scene, they all shook their heads and sighed. During the long period of imprisonment, they had seen too many people being brought out, but none of them had ever returned. Therefore, they all tacitly agreed that if Jiangchun was brought out, he would definitely be killed. What a pity! If he was able to reach the celestial immortal realm at such a young age, he would definitely be a tyrant in the future. At the very least, he would be an immortal monarch expert. This is the inevitable result of offending the Citra family in the western part of the northern region. Those people couldn't help but speak one after another, feeling sorry for Jiangchun. In the main hall, Jiangchun stood in the middle with his hands clasped behind his back. Behind him were a dozen guards led by Shisheng. Boy, I know you're from the Kunlun Immortal Mountain, and your status in the Immortal Mountain is probably not low. Tell me all the information you know about Jiangchun, and I'll spare your life. Otherwise, no one will know where you disappeared to. Xian sat at the head of the table and glanced at Jiangchun. Jiangchun couldn't help but sneer. His dark eyes stared at Xian as he said flatly, "Second Elder, we called each other brothers just now. Why did you change your attitude in the blink of an eye?" "Who's calling you brother? I'm warning you, you're in the Citra family. You'd better behave yourself." Xian seemed to have been stabbed in the heart. She slapped the chair and stood up, pointing at Jiangchun and reprimanding him loudly. "Oh, is that so?" Jiangchun took a step back. He used his immortal strength to condense a chair under his buttocks. After sitting on it, he crossed his legs. "Do you think those two immortal monarchs can protect you?" Seeing that Jiangchun didn't take them seriously, Shisheng stretched out his hand and was about to grab Jiangchun's collar. But just as he was about to touch Jiangchun, a wave of immortal strength suddenly erupted from Jiangchun's body. This wave directly sent a dozen guards, led by Shisheng, flying backward and vomiting blood. They landed in a corner of the main hall and groaned in pain. "Second Elder, you keep saying that you're looking for Jiangchun. Now that Jiangchun is standing in front of you, you can't recognize him. How ridiculous." Jiangchun's heart skipped a beat. He immediately dispersed the disguise, revealing a handsome and refined face. "You're Jiangchun?" Xian was shocked. "Hand over by Fengyu and Hikari. Otherwise, I'll make your Citra family completely disappear from the immortal world." Jiangchun narrowed his eyes and fully released the aura in his body. Light and darkness, immortal strength, also slowly circulated around his body. "You think too highly of yourself." Xian was surprised, but after all, Jiangchun's cultivation was only at the 4th level of the Heaven Immortal Realm. He was far from being too nervous. After snarling in a low voice, Xian stretched out his hand. A stream of light swept out from his palm and passed by Jiangchun. It flew out of the main hall, rose straight up, and exploded in midair. In an instant, Jiangchun clearly felt the aura of a dozen immortal supremes rushing toward him. This group of people was the strongest force of the Citra family. "Jiangchun, I didn't expect you to be so stupid as to take the initiative to come to me." Xian laughed heartily. His eyes gradually turned crazy. In his opinion, Jiangchun was now a turtle in a jar. As a subsect of the Black Sect, it's really shameful that there are only a dozen immortal supremes in the family. Jiangchun shook his head and sat motionless on the mass of immortal strength. Just when Xian thought that Jiangchun had given up resisting, his expression suddenly stiffened. Because in his perception, he clearly sensed that the chi of a dozen immortal venerables had suddenly disappeared from his perception. "What's going on?" Xian frowned with a trace of panic and uneasiness. Chapter 17:20. In the midst of his astonishment, 2 figures suddenly appeared in the hall. "What mob? I've already taken care of them." Jiang Yuan put his hand on Jiang Qin's shoulder and said, Huafu and I just returned, and we're about to inquire about you when we sensed your immortal power fluctuation. You laid your cards on the table with them? Huafu asked. Yes, I'll stop pretending. I'm the Jiang Qin they've been looking for. Jiang Qin nodded with a smile. Old thing, hand over by Fengyu and Hikari quickly. Otherwise, I'll make sure your Citra family suffers the same fate as the Black Cloud sect. Jiang Yuan stepped forward and pointed at Xian. Xian knew he was no match for two immortal dukes. As soon as Jiang Yuan finished speaking, a cloud of black mist spread out from his body and shrouded him. Trying to run? Jiang Yuan was already used to this kind of trick. His figure flickered and appeared in the black fog. He reached his hand in and forcibly pulled out a figure that was about to escape from the black fog. Plop! Xian was thrown into the middle of the hall by Jiang Yuan. Second Elder, tell me the truth, Jiang Qin said indifferently as he squatted down. Jiang Qin, if you kill me today, you'll never know the whereabouts of Bai Fengyu and Hikari. Xian gnashed his teeth. He knew what would happen if he said such words. He raised his head and stared at Jiang Qin with his cloudy eyes, while he spoke in a hoarse voice. All right. Jiang Qin suddenly laughed loudly. Then, many trees suddenly rose in the hall. Not only did they block the door, but they also formed another space in the hall. Shiyun's heart sank as he looked at the trees around him. He was a 9th-level immortal venerable and was only a step away from becoming an immortal duke. He could even be called a quasi-immortal duke. However, he knew that he couldn't use such an immortal technique with his strength. He also remembered that when he first entered the hall, Jiang Qin had light and dark immortal power. 3 attributes? Xian suddenly widened her eyes and looked up at Jiang Qin. Come, let me introduce you to an old friend. Jiang Qin did not reply. He took out a jade bottle from his storage ring and removed the seal on the bottle. A wisp of soul floated out from the bottle. Lord Jiang Qin, please let me live. I promise that I will never appear in front of you again. I will never attack you or the people around you again. Sun Lian's terrified voice rang out. Hearing this, Shiyun's back suddenly broke out in cold sweat. Sect Master Sun Lian, I'll bring you to meet an old acquaintance today, said Jiang Qin with a smile as he sat on a wooden stump behind him. Elder Xiyan? As a subordinate of the sect master of the Black Sect, Sun Lian recognized the person in front of him with a single glance. While he was shocked, he immediately scanned his surroundings. When he saw that they were surrounded by dense trees and could not see anything outside, he knew that the Citra family was probably in the same situation as the Black Cloud sect. Sect Master Sun Lian, didn't you say that you don't know what kind of forces the subsects of the Black Sect have? Jiang Qin stretched out his hand, and the suction force between his palms directly sucked Sun Lian's soul in front of him. Immediately, his hand tightly grasped Sun Lian's throat. Lord Jiang Qin, I only know about the Citra family. I'm not familiar with the other subsects. Sun Lian realized that he had said something wrong and quickly explained. We only knew each other's identity when we participated in an auction with the Citra family hundreds of years ago. I'll give you some time to catch up. When the time is over, tell me all the information you know. Otherwise, you two are useless to me. Jiang Qin was too lazy to listen to these explanations. He waved his hand, and the branches of the tree lifted Shi Yun from the ground and hung him in the air. The strange phenomenon in the main hall soon attracted the attention of the other members of the Citra family. After several elders rushed over, they looked at the door blocked by the tree trunk and tried to force their way in. However, no matter what method they used, they couldn't hurt the tree trunk in the slightest. Some of the weaker disciples were even injured by their own immortal power when they tried to attack. What's going on? After a series of efforts to no avail, the elders looked at each other in dismay. When the time came, Jiang Qin gently beckoned with his hand. The branches brought Shi Yun in front of him. Sect Master Sun Lian, Elder Shi Yun, how did your discussion go? Looking at Shi Yun in front of him, and then looking at Sun Lian floating in the air, Jiang Qin squinted his eyes and smiled. Lord Jiang Qin, we know very little. Besides, I'm sure you've already known about the situation. Xian looked troubled. He was in the same predicament as Sun Lian. If they spoke, the sect master wouldn't let them off. But if they didn't, Jiang Chen wouldn't let them off either. In fact, he'd do his best to torture them. Kill them. Jiang Yuan stepped forward and materialized a long staff with his immortal power, pressing it against Shi Yun's chest. Jiang Chen nodded. Let them disappear from the world of immortals. With Jiang Chen's consent, Jiang Yuan exerted more force in his arm and stabbed the stick into Shi Yun's body directly, destroying his heart in an instant. Shi Yun's eyes, which had been filled with fear at the beginning, became dull and lifeless. His body went limp in an instant. Lord Jiang Chen, please let me live. After his body was destroyed, a wisp of his soul drifted out. Shi Yun cupped his fists and knelt on one knee in front of Jiang Chen in midair. He hadn't expected Jiang Chen to be so decisive and ruthless. He'd only managed to hold on for a short while before Jiang Chen sent someone to kill him. There's a limit to my patience. Even if you didn't say anything, I would have found out about this in the future. But now, there's no longer a need for your family to exist. In a moment, I'll let you see your family disappear from your sight. Then, I'll personally dispose of you, Jiang Chen said with a wave of his hand. Enough nonsense. Get ready to be on your way. Jiang Yuan stretched out his hand and attached 2 strands of immortal power to their souls. No matter how capable they were, they wouldn't be able to escape from his grasp. Wait, Lord Jiang Chen, Hikari's parents are members of our family. Strictly speaking, Hikari should call me uncle. If it weren't for the sect master's orders, I wouldn't have attacked her. Shi Yun panicked when he felt immortal power binding him and hurriedly yelled at Jiang Chen. What did you say? Jiang Chen narrowed his eyes. It's absolutely true. When this girl was sent to our family, I already guessed her identity. Shi Yun gulped. At this juncture of life and death, he couldn't care less about anything else. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.